Alrighty, Tiger fans, we are here for the very, very first fan cam. Something that we wanted to get started in 2025. We weren't too sure when it was going to happen or how it was going to happen. And to be fair, we probably didn't expect the result we were going to get last night. So we thought, why not do it on the back of one of the greatest home and away wins that we've seen for quite some time. It was quite a phenomenal night. And I think it's something that most Tiger supporters didn't really expect. It just because of the way the season panned out. So to recap the game quickly, Richmond 13-4-82 defeated Carlton 9-15-69 by 13 points in front of 80,000 people at the G. The atmosphere was electric. For those who were there, you know exactly what I mean. It was just absolutely pumping. I was lucky enough to film the last couple of minutes of the game, which was quite a nice surprise as well. Plenty to talk about with the debutantes, but we will get to that part of it probably on our Monday night show more deeply. What tonight's all about. Tonight's all about basically being a talkback show for all of the viewers out there, as if you're ringing in SEN after the game, but it's a day later. So we've got some people lined up in the green room. We'll bring them on one by one. They can say their piece, what they like, didn't like, and say whatever they've got to say. And then we'll chuck the link into the chat, and if anyone else wants to jump on, feel free to jump on as well. But with that said, we'll get started. We'll get started with a familiar face, because I know he's got a few things on at the moment. EJ, welcome, mate. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm going all right.
You got that grand piano in the background?
Yeah. I was lying on top of that with a glass of red wine last night.
I'm sure you were. Take us through your thoughts, mate. What were your thoughts in the game, feelings?
Oh, just going to have a sip. Beer tastes better tonight.
It does.
Honestly, I didn't see that coming at all. And happy to be wrong, like stoked to be wrong. It's one of those things I think, you tip Carlton in the footy tips, and then when Richmond get up, you're happy as Larry, because it doesn't matter either way, because no one else tipped Richmond. But I know we're going to talk about, Lawler, and he was great. No, stuff like that. And look, Trainer just looks like he's played 50 games already. He was fantastic down back. But for me, it's these mid-tier players that we've all been crying out for more from was the highlight. I reckon it was Jack Ross's best game for Richmond.
Yeah.
He was unreal. And what a captain's knock from Nag. Look, he was outpointed on the night. DeConning was great, but he wasn't he was outpointed, but he was still very, very effective. A lot of tackles, a lot of goals, hard ball gets, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, and I just couldn't believe the momentum and that the young kids kept going. Like Carlton were the ones that were out on their feet towards the end, which is exemplified by that Seth Campbell goal. Not only
he had no right to get to that.
No, he was 10 metres behind.
Yeah,
I don't know who it was, number 2, whatever it was, right? 10 metres behind him, gets in front of him, and then has the temerity. He's still got the other guys on the ground, can't get his breath back, and here he is doing handstands and backflips. So
you'll love to see it. You'll love to see it.
Yeah, it was awesome. But look, let's enjoy it. We know we're going to have nights where that 41-point lead doesn't get brought back. But so we know we're going to have plenty of losses of the year. There's no doubt about that. But what this shows is that they were mature enough in mind, and I think that has been talked about, that they're working on the mind as much as they're working on the body. They're mature enough in mind not to let the scoreboard get into their head and to keep playing the way that they've been training to play. So that was a really, really good sign from me.
It was a pretty mature performance, wasn't it? In a lot of ways, like beyond their years a little bit. I think a lot of us expected them to fade as well. Yeah.
So, and some of the stuff from Carlton was mystifying. Like, why were they playing Cripps in the ruck?
Like I tweeted, having Camden McIntosh and Cripps taking centre bounces wasn't on my bingo card for 2025, but yeah, they are something to roll with.
No offence to K-Mac. He's a C-grade player and a trier, and he does occasionally chop out whatever. Cripps is their Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
They're using their Ferrari in a smash-up derby.
Yeah.
Like
It's crazy.
And when you get to the back end of the game, he was actually totally gassed because he's been doing all this donkey work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was bizarre, but it was. And I don't normally listen to talkback radio, and I'm looking forward to jumping off in a minute and listening to what some other people are going to say. I don't normally listen to talkback radio, but I made an exception today, and the Carlton fans didn't let me down.
I'm sure everyone took great joy tuning into SDN on the way home. I think there needs to be a montage made of that in some way, shape, or form. It was quite entertaining to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you've got some people lined up in the green room, let's get them in and boot me off, and look forward to watching a little bit of this.
All right, EJ, thanks for jumping on, mate. Appreciate your thoughts, and I will no doubt see you on Monday.
Yeah, we'll do. See you later.
See you, EJ. All right, next up, we have got Jed Dexter. Jed, welcome, mate. How you feeling about the game last night?
Oh, still trying to contemplate how it went down, really. Like, it was just shocking, really. There was no other word to really describe it. When we were down by 40 points, I was sitting with a couple of my mates at the game, and we were saying like, "Oh, we're going to get done by 100 points here." And then, to their credit, they just kicked a few goals. And then once the crowd got behind them, it felt like, it brought them into the game. And then we just kept kicking goals and kept coming back, and we really rode that momentum. It was, it was. At the end of the game, when the siren went, I just felt so proud. Just to be a supporter that has stuck that for a long time. It was really proud. That was the word that we used to describe it.
What do you think the turning point was in the game? Because in the first quarter, I was really concerned we weren't going to kick another goal for the rest of the game, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to say, really. Like, I don't know, once we kicked those string of 3 goals before, I think it was half time, I think, that wrestled a bit of the momentum back. We started getting it on top in the midfield, which helped a lot, especially around the ground. I felt like Taranto and Hopper, got into the game. And then Ross's third quarter was just unbelievable. Like, I'm so happy for a bloke like that's battled and toiled away for so long, just to see him come out and play the game that he did, it was just great to see.
What about having all these youngsters out there? What a dream come true! I know you played footy as well. What a dream come true that would be for them to walk out in the G in front of 80,000 people and beat Carlton, who we were odds on to get pumped by.
They looked like, as EJ said before, they looked like 50-game players. Like, they just, the occasion didn't seem to rot them at all. And all 3 of them had Armstrong, Trainer, and Waller. They all had moments too, like real big moments in the game. One vivid moment was Trainer, I think in the last quarter. I was sitting next to one of my friends, and he left his direct opponent, and it was a massive moment in the game, and he ended up getting the ball, and I'm like, he's gone too early, and he just read the ball so well. And the crowd was going nuts when that happened. But all 3 of them had really big moments in the game, which was really cool to see.
And even just those second or third tier players that we all want to see step up, with someone like a Thompson Dow, I thought had a really good game. Ben Miller did really well down back as well, especially when Blight went off.
Dow, he had 9 touches. I think he ended up getting like 63 super coach points in the last quarter or something. So for a player like that too, like a lot of people have, been his sort of whipping boy for a little bit. Like, it was good to see that he come across and played really well too.
And are you pro Camden McIntosh headband or against? Sure, I'll tell you what. If Richmond was smart, they would bring out a 33 embroidered headband tomorrow, and they would sell like hotcakes.
Surely he would have had to get clearance to play with that.
I think because it was non-brand, I think where Bailey Smith went wrong is he had the Nike tick on it. So he would have got clearance being a blank one.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure what part of his hair he was trying to keep out of his eyes.
Good on him though. Fair play to him. Like if he rocks up out there with 80,000 people with all the eyes on him, and he did the work. So fair play.
What'd you think of his new move into the midfield?
He played obviously he's predominantly played wing majority of his career, so he's never really played inside mid. So it's something that we really haven't looked at before. So in the practice match, I thought he had a really good game. So he deserved his spot for round one in there to have a crack at it. But yeah, he seems like the run with role they might potentially go with that for the rest of the year potentially. So be interesting to see what they do. And
the Tom Lynch suspension?
Yeah, well, it's not a game without Tom Lynch getting a bit of scrutiny, isn't it?
No, true.
Yeah, well, we'll see. He's got a week, but I saw that Jonty Full and Samson Ryan kicked a few goals today, so one of them I'd presume would come in. I'd probably say Samson Ryan. He's probably got the runs on the board.
Yeah, you would think so. But surely we're going to appeal that though.
Yeah, he's just one of those players that if he does something, he's just straight away on the chopping block with the MRO, unfortunately.
Yep, he's definitely a friend of theirs. So, any other final thoughts from the game? What was the crowd like? The emotion like?
Oh, the crowd was electric. You touched on as well in your video last night. Like, it was just unbelievable. Like, it was probably one of the best home and away games I've ever gone to. Like, yeah, I'm a 22-year member, so I've been to a lot of games, been to grand finals. Obviously not up there with the grand final, but as a home and away game, and the weight of expectation on us going into the game, everyone wrote us off. So like it was just unbelievable.
No, it was good. It's just a weight of expectation off our shoulders now. We've got that one win. So now we can hopefully just crack on with it and hopefully steal a few others along the way.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, we've still got some good players to come back. So hopefully, let's shore up our back line too with Bolter and hopefully Gibcus coming back there. I reckon we'll steal a few wins in the back half of the year as well.
Would absolutely love to, especially if it means North finish below us. That would be the cherry on top. It'd be very
100%.
All right, yeah. Thanks for jumping on, mate. We'll definitely get you back on again. Hopefully, it's another win next week, but we'll see how we go there. But appreciate your thoughts and your time tonight, mate.
Cheers, mate. Go Tigers.
Have a good one. All right, next in. Thank you, Jed. Next in, we have got Nick. Nick, you are a long time, very good friend of the show. Nick Rericus, everybody. A lot of people would see and chat in is someone who we dearly love on the show with the work he does with getting some past players on. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, and thanks for having us on, Michaels.
No, my absolute pleasure, mate. What do you think of the game? What was your emotions, reactions? How do you think? How are you feeling through it all?
It was just firstly really wonderful to be there. The voice is still a little bit croaky. I think a lot of us have given the vocal cords a bit of a workout.
Yep.
Some of it from excitement, frustration, and some of it for lack of dropping the ball decisions in that first quarter. But never mind, we move on. Yeah, look, it was good. It was exciting. I mean, you go there with hope, and over the years, when you get to my age, you get to know the difference in the crowds. You get crowds that cheer with hope, but then you can feel the difference. The crowds that get involved with excitement or belief, and I think last night you could really feel the hope in that first half. And I think what happened is it was like a good old-fashioned arm wrestle. We just hung in there, had to do what we do. And it's almost unfair to say that Carlton, lost it. I mean, I think it was our pressure that really sort of started impacting. And players, lesser likes like Steely Green, Campbell, the first gamer, I mean, Lawler, He reminded me of his presence on the ground was like a 24-year-old Brett Delidio. That's the impact he made. I mean, you think back to Delidio at 24, 25 and what he was bringing to the on-field. Every time you wanted the ball in his hands. You wanted the ball in some of these players that are lesser likes, and they delivered. And really, I knew with our pace that we would really be in the contest, because that's what their turnovers and some of those slips and missed kicks. It was from that. It wasn't the gang tackling that of the 16 and 17. It was more the one-on-one, but really hard at the man, forcing those turnovers. So, and I think that's what really got us into the game. And we didn't drop our heads. If when Bauer missed that first goal, or Lachlan's terrible kick across goals, we didn't drop our heads at all. These were senior players making big and crucial mistakes, but we just gelled. And Uze, whether you want to believe him or not, he said that he didn't really look at the scoreboard at any stage.
I
Well,
saw that.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure the players did it either. I think for such a young group, and I think there was 13 less than 25-year-olds on the ground, was just focused on trying to be the role players. You can't underestimate Bauer and Armstrong's roles, as key forwards on that forward line, trying to help Lynch to bring the ball down, to create a contest, to get those young small players into the game.
Exactly right. And I don't think Harry Armstrong recorded a mark, but he was still a pivotal piece to the way we played, and he did exactly what he did against Collingwood in that practice game, which was crashing packs. And if he's not going to mark it himself, he wasn't letting his opponent mark it, which brought in our smaller guys, like you said.
Yeah, geez, we can't underestimate his that little kick that where those two Carlton players went for the ball,
The country, yeah.
and Armstrong picked it up right on the line, and to have the awareness. If that was Craig if that was Lambert or Prestia kicking that ball, you say, well, you wouldn't probably think too much of it. But to be so poised, to look up and to spot, was it Bauer in the goal square or
Bauer.
something? Just kick it to him. It was just, again, it just shows the excitement, of these young players that all contributed in many ways.
You're right. I actually thought when he picked it up, he was probably going to have a flying shot, because that's probably the first thing that comes to mind. So to lower the eyes was really good. What about Luke Traynor down back, another first gamer who, I wasn't sure what role he would play within the side, but he looked right at home out there.
His output didn't surprise me. The only thing that surprised me was that he started on the ground. I thought he might come on, let the heat of the game and then be brought on as a sub. But he doesn't surprise me. He was out by far the best defender, and the emphasis was on his marking, but his kicking is elite. His kicking was as good, and if not better, than most of the midfielders in that draft. So we knew what we were getting. North got a bit spooked because of the concussion, but we have got a real player there, and he comes with fine pedigree. Apart from his grandfather being Doug Wade, I believe that his mum was a very talented sportswoman as well in her own right.
It's his footy IQ as well. A couple of times the ball on the ground, and instead of dragging it in, he was actually looking and aware enough to knock it out into space to one of our players. So he's just a very, very clever footballer. So he's going to be super exciting to watch.
Yeah, look, he certainly is, and maybe I was a little bit surprised that he got a call up so early. But again, when they're that talented, it just, you can see. And like as I said, again, Lawler didn't look out of place. Trainer certainly didn't, and the guy that was leading the pack, Smiley, he would have been playing if it wasn't for an injury as well. So there's some really good players that can still come into that side and improve us.
How impressed were you with the resolve of the plays, especially the back line? Because there was about a 5 to 6 minute period towards the end of the game where the Blues are putting us under the pump massively with a lot of repeat entries, and how well everyone stood up.
Yeah, look, I think what's really, was keeping me, and I felt sort of with 7 minutes to go, I think one of the guys in our group was saying, look, the 7 minutes to go. I was nervous, but I was comfortable because when you're that deep into the game and you see, I'm pretty sure it was McIntosh dive across his body and smother a ball from someone trying to kick it into the hot spot, you know that you're in a good you're in a good spot, in a good zone. The players are really focused, and again, this is where the lesser lights. And again, I'm going to talk about Campbell, Seth, Steely, Green. These lesser lights, even Dow, they were just tenacious at the ball. I'm not surprised. The previous caller and EJ, and hello to EJ if he's listening. What I liked, I'm not at all surprised by Ross because that is his position. It's not the wing. He's a good oversized midfielder, and he's never really been given an opportunity to play there because of the dynasty years. But now I hope, everyone's saying, oh, it was his best game of his career. Well, give him an opportunity there. Trezise looks a wonderful footballer. I've always rated him. He looks more at home on the wing because of his really good pace, but also his delivery on his left leg. He gives us a different dynamic. It wasn't coincidence that in the second half, Carousella, his running patterns that are already been introduced were starting to show, and it was making us a little bit unpredictable. The other thing that I did like, Michaels, was Nankervis, and I must emphasise, he was giving us again a presence of an extra man in that midfield by his second efforts. Like he would let DeConey come into him and crash into him into his ribs. He was trying to bring the ball down, and then it was his great efforts. How many times to get this, the second bite of the ball. So I just think he was outstanding yesterday and really played like an absolute captain.
And kicked 2 goals, so we got some pretty good reward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That again, that was such a crucial, the first one. I mean, we'd missed one and Carlton already had 4, I think, on the board. And it was just really, okay, win or lose, we really have to impact the scoreboard. I think against Carlton, Collingwood in the practice match, I think it was like 1-8 or something. We were 6 goals won. And, and I think I did say to you, in a recent call that, as long as we're not 4-8, I think we'll be competitive.
And we were. Bad kicking's bad football, so we're able to have the shoe on the other foot on the other night, which was good. And the Blues missed some chances as well, but, we made the most of ours, and that's what matters the most.
Yeah, and, and luck is a game, and... I mean, I think they did have a fair bit of luck in that first half. A lot of missed kicks were just lucky popping their way. But so it's not possible, I think, to maintain it for the full game. But I think after half time we settled down. I think the nerves were down a little. Had subsided a little bit, and as I said, the team were just focused on their roles, and that's when the running patterns once again started freeing us up a little bit, and that's when our pace started coming into the game. We looked really positive and exciting going forward, and once again, it's just Lawler. Oh my God, his first game. He does run a little bit like Dangerfield. He looks like Dusty, but boy, I think he had the presence of Brett Delidio yesterday in his first game.
I think we're going to see plenty more good things from Sam Lawler in many years to come, Nick. So, very exciting player.
Yeah, absolutely, and whatever the rest of the season brings, it's very important to anyone watching here today. Don't chuck it in, after one bad game. I mean, we're very young. Please understand and remember, Carlton were in their 5th year of their game plan and their charge to the finals. We're in our first pre-season. And to get back in, everything was against us this week. To be 40-odd points down, having 13 kids, 24 under, with very limited games, we just really showed that it is possible if you just focus on what you need to do. And the old saying, just one goal at a time. And, we're getting close. I don't know how you were feeling there yesterday. And I'm thinking, God, we're only a goal down. And, oh, my God, we're level. And what a crucial goal that was by Brown again. He had to stand up, and this is what during our dynasty years, certain players, whether it was Titch Edwards, whether it was Lambert, whether it was Prestia, whether it was Boston, they all took in turns in their moment. Brown didn't really have a big game, and I rate Brown very much. He put his body on the line with that missed kick and marked that ball. And this is my opportunity to now impact and do something for the team. And he didn't waste it, as did Hopper, that crucial goal with Hopper as well. And that's what's really, really important, is when it's your turn, you really must impact, not for yourself, but for the team. And that belief that what that gave us last night, me and my boys were walking, from the MCG to back to the car park, and the whole way we're going, the belief that game has given the kids, the club, Carlton apparently cancelled their membership drive today. Well, like you said to the previous caller, I think we could maybe release some merchandise, after last night. But on a serious note, it was very exciting, great to be there. The atmosphere was electric. And, whatever the rest of the season brings, just be proud that you're seeing the start of something that's going to be special.
No, well summed up, Nick. Couldn't say it better myself, mate. Thank you for stopping by tonight. Appreciate your insights as always, mate. Super to have you on.
No problems at all. Thanks for having us on, and go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Thank you, mate. All right, up next we have got JR882. Welcome. How are you, mate?
Hey. How are we?
Good, yourself?
Yeah, very well. If I did hear that Carlton cancelled their membership day, and I can only imagine what they'll do next week when Hawthorn smash them off the park.
Yeah, I only just realised before that they've got the Hawks next week, so that's that's not going to end well for them. But I'm sure we'll get some good content out of the Blues cancelling their membership drive today. But what do you think of the game? Were you at the game? Was it? What were your general thoughts and takeaways from the great win we had?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It was one of those special wins that we get to enjoy once in a while. And surely recall under Dimmer, when the first couple of years we had that win against Sydney, coming from 6 goals behind to win. It's a game like that. You can build a club around that.
And I walked away as well thinking it's the confidence that they're going to walk out with next week, knowing they sort of know now what it takes to be competitive. And if it falls your way, it falls your way. But that game for those young kids is going to be worth about 20 games of experience, I think.
Yeah. And just and in the last 5 minutes, they were starting to have a couple of bit of a run on. They had a chance to get some goals on us, and our young guys stood up, which is really good to see. Just little 1% things like Trainer had a spoil for a kick and stuff like that.
Yeah, and his last-ditch smother against Cripps, I think he was having a shot for goal, which would have brought the house down had he kicked it. But to have that kind of sense of presence to smother that, and that one-on-one contest on the half-forward line or half-back line for us, it's just really nice to see young kids step up.
Certainly, and that's our future.
Yeah, exactly right. What'd you make of big Harry Armstrong's game?
Very good. I like that contest in the second quarter, and the crowd noticed it when it happened. That one where he went in for the mark, and I think it was Hollands he was against. He cleaned him up, and
big
he
contest.
Sort of cartwheeled over, and that one.
Yeah.
Because the thing with our three forwards that we've drafted, they all crash packs, and that's a great trait for a key forward to have.
It is because I think it's actually quite pivotal to our game style. Probably a lot of other clubs' game styles too, but to have three youngsters who are just so competitive and driven to crash packs and get that body on body is a big blessing. Any other young players stand out for you?
Yeah, Lawler, I've got a couple of stats on him. I know you'll discuss him further on Monday, but he had 8 score involvements, which was second in ground. And he also had the 4th best rated game for a rookie since 2012.
Is that
their
right?
First game.
Wow.
Yes. So he's already right up there.
He's just so powerful. Like, I'm not going to do the comparisons. I know we want to try and steer away from it, but
no.
Just the way he could stand up in tackles and just his vision for those releasing handballs to set up some of those goals was just class.
Yeah. Though that ability he's got to take a tackle and free his arms and get the handball out, that's something that you can't teach.
Yeah. And I think that type of power was what was such an attractive trait for him to us to bring into the midfield. So it was really interesting because the first half he probably played exclusively half forward. I don't think he actually entered the midfield until the start of the second half, which was clearly by design for whatever reason. Yeah, hopefully we'll see that's shift a bit more. Or do you prefer him playing half forward? Not permanently, but do you like
early days
the time he had there?
Play half forward. I think early days he'll probably play half forward, and then further on towards the end of the year, play more midfield time.
Yeah.
We've already seen he can certainly impact there.
He's just a good lead-up player, takes a good mark. I know Lynchy tried to find him with a little chip pass over the top inside 50, but Lynch probably isn't the man to try and deliver those types of passes, but I think he knew that how good Lawler would be. If it got anywhere near him, he was probably going to grab it. What about Jacob Blight, who went off with I think it was a quad injury at some stage, but I really liked his game down back. I thought for someone who's so inexperienced, I think he did really well.
Yeah, well, he played on Mackay last year, and Mackay actually praised him after the game on that he's on a podcast with his brother, I think, and he played really well. And I was actually disappointed he went off because he was unlucky to be dropped last year, and he gave Mackay a bath, and then Miller went on to him after that and applied extra bubbles. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and Miller, I know there's been a bit of criticism of him along the journey. I suppose his last 5 games of last year weren't great, but that was the same for the whole team. But I think he's gotten back to what he was playing like during the year last year, where he was winning a lot of his one-on-one contests. And just to see him out position and out muscle Mackay on some good 450 entries from the Blues was such a pleasing thing to see.
Yeah, it shows he's really worked on his craft over the years. And he's sort of like a Dave Asprey type because he's not going to get the plaudits that other guys get. Like he's not going to get the plaudits that Rance got during his career. But he's going to play a role that could allow Bolter to do what Rance did in the future. And every team needs a guy like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he very much justified why he was selected. What did you make of Tyler Sonsie coming on as sub?
I didn't mind. I thought he went all right when he came on. I've got one stat on the back, so I want to give them a shout out. Carlton had 9 goals from 65 inside 50s at 13.8% efficiency. That's how well they played. Crazy. Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
And for context, we had 13. We had 13 goals from 40 at 32.5%. So our backs were under fire for quite a lot of the match, and they did really well. They were.
Did you think at all the damn wall was going to break at the end in that last quarter when they were just going repeat entry? I think Silvani went down. They got a couple of marks. He was looking very threatening as well.
Yeah, I did think that because I was down at the punt road end, and that's where Carlton were kicking to, of course, and some of our guys were cramping up, so I was a bit worried, but I think our pre-season program's done all right for us. We ran lots and we ran a long way.
It's interesting you say that because I reckon in the Collingwood game, I reckon the overwhelming feeling from a lot of supporters at the end of it was that we looked like we were slow and out of gas. And maybe they were, maybe it's part of the training load phase, I'm not too sure. But I tend to agree with you that by the end of it, we looked like we were running really on top of the ground.
Yeah. Well, to show you how well we did, our age for the game, our average age was 24.8. Carlton's was 26.2. Average games, us 76.2, Carlton 109.1, and yet we overran them. And they had a lot more experience than we did. And we had, I've got some notes here. We've got 12 under 50 and 7 under 10 games. And Carlton had 6 under 50 games.
It's remarkable, isn't it? Like, look, if we play that game 10 times over, we probably don't get the result to go the way that we got it to go. But end of the day, we were good enough on the night, and it just shocked the hell out of everybody. It was great. What was the atmosphere like down the punt road end in that last couple of minutes?
Oh, fantastic. Because there were some Carlton fans behind us, and when they were kicking away, they were chanting Carlton, Carlton, trying to drown us out. And they left with 5 minutes to go. But but when there's a close finish, you can always sense the opposition fans are screaming for their players to go, run, you know. And then when we get the ball, we're screaming the same at our guys. It's just unreal. Like everyone can sense it comes down to moments when it's like that.
And you know what? Even if Carlton had have pinched the win, it still wouldn't have been that great of a victory for them. They still would have to have been asking the same questions they're asking today.
Well, apparently their fans think they're going to win a premiership. So, and I will say, for where we are, any side that can't put us away, they're not achieving anything.
Agree. Agree. And yeah,
But,
I don't know whether we're selling ourselves short or not, but it felt like, especially after that first quarter, if you can't go on with that and get a result, then you're doing something wrong. Or equally, we started to do a lot right. I think our pressure game went through the roof.
Yeah.
We ended up suffocating them, which was really good to see. And everyone just stuck to the plan and whatever the process was, and it paid off, which was good.
Yeah, and I think when we started to come back, we were moving the ball a lot quicker, and they basically shut themselves. Once our pressure rose, they had no answer for us.
Which was good, exactly what we want to see. So, any final thoughts or stats or opinions on what you saw on Thursday night?
No, just go Tigers. I'd just repeat the other remarks that have been made on the show in the past, that we are on a journey, and we've got some ups and downs to come. But if that's what the ups are like, bring them on. We're in for a great ride.
Absolutely. And, we've got that one game off our back now. So it's, only way is, well, we can go down, but there's positive vibes.
Yeah, there was one thing that Uze said in his press conference that I love, and that was unexpected scores. We actually lose the game, so we've got a bit to work on. So we're enjoying the win,
too.
but as from I think it was today, we're switched on for next week because we do have a lot to work on, and that just shows you that he's really engaged in what we're doing.
Agree. I thought that was a really mature take in response from him. It would have been easy to have been, he was obviously beaming from ear to ear, being happy, but it would have been easy to just go the other route and just be ultra positive. And it wasn't a negative or a criticism. It was just okay, we won, but there's still a lot to work on. I thought it was a really, really well handled question. I think that's a good point that you make there.
Well, to give you an idea, I think I can't remember the exact number, but it was contested ball. We're down 23 and inside 50s by 25 or something. You're not going to do that and win a lot of games. That's the reality of the game. So efficiency is where we want it.
And just sheer willpower and work rate, which is good.
Yeah, exactly right. And heart too. The young kids have got a lot of heart in them, and you can see the hunger. And you see a guy like Jack Ross, he's seen his teammates get premiership medals and he hasn't got one. So this is his turn now in the future to get
That's
them.
it. And that's what Uze said to him. This is now their side. These sort of guys who have been there 3, 4, 5 years, it's now their turn to take the mantle and get on with it. And I think they've taken a good little baby step forward in the right direction.
It's also a good thing for Uze because we've worked on a lot over 6 months in the preseason, and there are some things you can see that are working, and there's still things to work on.
Yeah.
So it's because he's been under a lot of pressure, which is very unfair considering the injury toll last year.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what people criticising could expect him to do.
Exactly right. A lot of it was out of his control, but I was super pumped for Uze. He thoroughly deserved to get that win for himself above anything else. So he will no doubt be a well-rested and happy man.
And there's footage of him in the rooms after the game shaking hands with Ben Serpell, and they look very happy. That's
good. Well, he's done a good job too so far. So long may it continue. Long may it continue.
Exactly right.
All right, Jared, 82, thank you so much, mate, for jumping on. Much appreciated. We'll definitely keep doing this as the year goes on. Appreciate the insights. And, hopefully we can be back next week with some more winning talk.
Thank you. And I very much look forward to Monday's show. It could be the most upbeat show you've ever done, including the premiership shows.
It could be. It could very well be. So I know the boys are getting amped up for that one big time. So thank you again, mate, and we'll speak soon. All right, next up we have the Sarge. How are you, mate?
Hi, what's going on, mate?
Going well, thanks yourself.
Yeah, good, mate. Happy to make my TigerCast debut.
Yeah. Love the chair as well. I like it. We're sort of sporting the same kind of vibes.
Yeah, Secret Lab.
Is that a sponsorship?
Nah. I wish.
What did you make? What were your thoughts on the game, mate? I know you're a passionate Tiger man. What did you make of it?
I'm just sitting there like, I went to my dad's and watched it because I didn't know that it was our home game. So I was like, oh, well, I could have gone. But and then when I got to my dad's, I saw it was our home game. I'm like, I could have gone. I wish I went.
Yeah.
No, it was so good, man. Like obviously the first half wasn't that good, but watching like the first half, my dad and I just looked at each other like, oh, all right. And we know what's happening. But then seeing who kicked our second goal? Was it Rossi?
I'm not actually sure he kicked our second goal.
We'll say for argument's sake, it was Ross. When he kicked that goal, and I saw we were only less than 30 points down. I felt a bit of momentum shift, and then by the time it was halftime, I'm like, we're only 25 points down.
Yeah.
If we keep playing the way we're playing, we could rattle them a bit. And that was what I wanted from this game to start with. Was just like I was nowhere near expecting us to win, but I just wanted to rattle them a little bit. Like just kind of.
I thought the same as you when I saw it was 25 points. Like, maybe. But then I'm like, but can we keep playing at that intensity? Are we mature enough with such a young side to reel that kind of margin back in? And then on the flip 100%. Side, like Carlton are meant to be a top 4 prospect, right? So the expectation, even within the ground, was probably that, okay, they'll come back out and reassert themselves and get on with it. But it just never eventuated.
Yeah. I thought Sammy Layla. I've been on this kid since mid last year. As soon as I heard of him and saw all the Dusty comparisons, not that we're like promoting that, but the Petrarca and the Dangerfield comparisons as well. I'm like, okay, I want this kid.
Yeah,
I want this kid at pick 1 or 2 or whatever we have. And he did not disappoint. Like when he kicked that first goal, I was jumping up and down and just yelling, as much as what I said before, like, give him the number 4, give him the rising star, give him whatever he wants. And it was just to see the young kids actually show something was exciting, and to get the win.
Because you go into those games hoping you'll see the young kid show something. That was all of our great hope. But, to see him also then kick the goal to put us in front. I mean, what a moment that was. It's a clutch moment. He probably could have. There was probably an easy handball on the inside, but to take that upon himself to do that for the team, it was huge. And I think that will be something he'll never forget.
It just shows confidence. Like for him to back himself in and that second goal where it was on the run, like to back himself in and take the kick rather than pass it off. Like, that's like what we want from not only just the kids, but all of our players. And, as I've been a Jack Ross fan for the last 3 or 4 years, and I'm so glad to see that he's like, his stat line looks like a Brownlow vote stat line.
It was an interesting game from him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the West Coast preseason game, granted it was an ultra young team who probably would never have played with each other at all that was over there. I kind of felt like he maybe let himself down a little bit in that game. He didn't really lead the way like I thought he might have. And I thought, I wonder where this is going to go for him. But his game yesterday, that second goal he kicked on the 45-degree angle that just brought the house down. It was a big kick in a big moment, and he delivered.
Oh, he's so underrated. Like a lot of our best players yesterday were not only underrated players in the team, but in the comp as well. Like K-Mac, Ross, Miller. I'm really glad Miller had a great game and kept Mackay on a leash.
Yeah. And Thompson Dow.
Yeah, Dow in the last quarter. Like the amount of times I was like, yes, Dowie, let's go.
What a shame he didn't slot that goal.
Oh, he looked so confident. And something I've noticed with Dow over the years is he's looked very shy in a way.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't really back himself in. He looked so confident in that fourth quarter.
He was actually getting stepping through some tackles as well. So even though it doesn't maybe look like he's put on some physical mass. Yeah,
I noticed that as well.
Maybe his just core strength's gone up a little bit. I don't know, but he was definitely getting through tackles a bit better and just had some good vision to get the ball out to some players in space. I think he got 9 tackles and 27 pressure acts or something like that. That alone gets you a game next week automatically.
Yeah, it helps when he's not the top midfielder like he was last year.
Yeah.
And my man Seth Campbell, give him the votes. Just give him all the votes.
All the votes.
Give him every vote. Like he was so good, and I think he's been one of our best forwards since he debuted. Like he was good last year. He was good last night. Kind of reminded me of 2017 Castagna.
He kind of went to another level in the last quarter. I remember that bit of play where when Mansell got hurt, and just the repeat efforts that Campbell had to help generate that shot on goal that we ended up scoring. I mean, at that stage of the game, you just would have thought he would have been knackered, and then then he does that massive run at the end to get the goal and finishes off with a backflip.
And Mansell as well. I was like genuinely terrified when I saw Mansell on the ground. He's the one player I believe has really, really improved under Uze. Like,
his preseason was good too.
Yeah. And I was gonna throw out my old jersey because I got the number 7 on it, but once I saw Mansell got number 7, I'm like, I'm keeping it.
Holding on to it.
I'm a big fan.
I think
he's so
start
good.
to see a few more 7s back in the crowd now, I reckon.
Yeah. As much as I miss Baker, but I'm glad Mansell got number 7.
No, he showed some really, really good signs. What about Sam Banks' game? What did you make of him?
I thought Banksy was all right. He was pretty middle of the road. I don't know. I haven't paid much attention to Banks when I have watched him play, but I think he's got massive upside. Like, if the club thinks he's capable of playing on a wing and or halfback, like they must see something in him.
Yeah, I've heard a few times that internally the club rate Banks really, really highly. I thought he showed some really good composure as the game got on with some tight situations, leaving his man to impact a contest, and just those small things. It just kind of almost felt like the whole belief of the group rose as the game went on.
100%. Like, it was, I think, and a massive problem we had last year was half the team was checked out for either A, we're not going to improve, or B, I'm leaving at the end of the year, so I don't care. And It's nice to see that there are like everyone's on the same page, everyone's got intent. Even our older players, Vlosten and Broad, like they were outstanding. They were much better than they were in the preseason.
They had some really good games, which they need to do. They need to lead from the front. In a lot of ways, they're going to set the standard for these youngsters. So if they see them doing all the right things, I think everyone else will kind of just follow suit and fall in line.
What do you make of Short's game?
I didn't mind him. Look, it'd still like to see him get back to that 2022, 2021 Jaden Short. There was probably a couple of times where he was in a good spot to get that wraparound handball for a long shot, but they didn't give it off. I was screaming to handball it to him a couple of times. But, yeah, I thought there was a couple of times where he maybe went back with the flight with the ball a bit more than we'd previously seen as well. You can see he's got the buy in there to do all the things that's required. He's been laying tackles, and the big knock on him has been some of the defensive stuff as well. So if he can start or keep ticking those boxes, it reduces the potential to break through our defense.
Yeah.
But no, he was good. Any other final thoughts, Sarge?
Lynch, I was so happy to see him come back. Like, when he marked it in the goal square, I said to my dad, it's lunchtime. And he just looked at me like, what? I'm like, you don't get it.
For those who are at the game, and I didn't know this until Grock mentioned it to me, so that mark in the goal square you speak of, up on the big screen, they put up a stat of like the percentages of conversion rate from that area. 58% he is from that spot. How is that even possible? At what point is he missing that shot from goal? But anyway, he nailed the goal, and that's all that matters. But speaking of Lynch, what do you make of the suspension?
If the club doesn't appeal it, or he doesn't get off, I'm marching down to AFL HQ myself. Like,
There'll be a few people doing that.
I've watched the vision a few times over, and he was like, Wiedering had his hands in his back, and what was he supposed to have done? Like, had it taken a head knock, and both like him and De Koning would have been out for the rest of the game.
Yeah, exactly right. I think, and maybe I'm being biased, but I think it'll get overturned because De Koning ended up being their best player, I think, by some distance. Didn't have a concussion check, so they obviously weren't that concerned with the incident. And nothing like what's he being suspended for? No one got hurt. There was no outcome. So what's the deal?
100%.
What's the go? When you got 3 other players in the weeks prior, including Lawler, who caught proper injuries and nothing happened. So I just can't see how it sticks. And it can't be graded medium for the reasons I just mentioned.
Would you be satisfied if it was downgraded to a fine?
I mean, you would, but even then, it's like shit. Nothing even happened, but it definitely can't be medium impact because they didn't care enough to check him for concussion. So to me, that's end of story.
Yeah, he was their best player on ground, and
By
didn't
far.
have Supercoach VC on him.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't either.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't either.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right, Sarge, thank you for jumping on, mate. Appreciate
No
your
worries,
support
mate.
and insights as always. We'll speak soon, no doubt.
No worries. Thanks, mate.
Catch you later. All right, next up we've got Seb. Seb, thanks for holding on, mate. How you doing?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Going very well, going very well. What was your thoughts and feelings and emotions from the game on Thursday night?
Oh, look, it was unbelievable. Like when I saw the first quarter, I thought, oh, I don't know, like they're on top of us. But then and then the second quarter, we actually looked all right. I'm like, okay, it's game on, we could go. But third quarter, that was unbelievable. What I loved was the back line, like, Jacob Blight, Ben Miller, Luke Traynor. I still can't believe we got him at like pick 20 something. That is just a steal. And they just they wanted more. They were hungry. Like when Tom Brown kicked that goal just before 3/4 time, I was like, we are coming. It was such a good win. I was in the cheer squad and the noise was just unbelievable.
Oh, you were in prime spot there for the atmosphere. That would have been unbelievable.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I was holding the pom-poms and we were just all going off. It was awesome.
So Luke, you mentioned Luke Traynor. Where do you think in an even draft, if teams were to redo the draft tomorrow, where do you think he would go?
Oh, it's a tough one. Look, North Melbourne, he could have went to North, but like what that other bloke said, with that concussion, then that's why I was scared. There was also St Kilda, but knowing that they just wanted to get Travaliga and Taru. I mean, Taru is actually a good pickup for them, but that's all I can say to him. So I'm not sure if interstate clubs will go for him. So it's an interesting one there.
And what about the other debutants, Armstrong and Lawler? The cheer squad would have been pretty wrapped. When he kicked that goal, you all went absolutely ballistic.
We went ballistic when Lawler kicked that goal, his first goal. And I'm going to tell you right now, he is a superstar, and he is like a Dusty Martin. Like I saw 2 photos of Dustin Martin and Lawler kicking the foot. And I'm just looking at, I'm like, oh my god, they actually have they look so alike. I'm like, Jesus, this kid's unbelievable. Armstrong didn't do too bad, but I loved how he got the ball, kicked it to Bauer, and bang. That was probably his highlight. That was his goal when Bauer kicked that goal.
Yeah, it's a lot of composure for someone who's so young. And speaking to someone today who was with our recruiting staff, they actually mentioned they were probably most surprised at Harry Armstrong's game with the level of maturity they showed. I think they all thought he had it and it would eventually happen. I don't think many of them expected to see it this early in his career.
Yeah, no, it was interesting they went for later pick. I think the reason they went Forsey earlier because 4 was more like a Tom Lynch. So when I was at the club when we watched draft night, we were all going nuts when we picked Armstrong at 23. There were some surprise reactions when we got 4. Well, I don't really know much about him, but when Armstrong was at 23, that is just unbelievable. We did get a few steals that night, I will say that.
That was the draft went on, it was like, I don't see how these other clubs need him as a forward. So it's like, well, we're going to get him. Exactly. We're going to get him for a steal. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
What did you think of the tagging role that Camden McIntosh did on Paddy Cripps? Now, I know that Cripps still got a fair amount of the ball and he did have a pretty good game, but do you reckon that Camden limited his impact versus what we've seen in previous years?
Look, I don't really mind the Camden in the middle because losing a lot of that experience of Rioli, Baker, Bolton, and Graham, I wasn't against it because we did need that experience. And look, I don't really mind the tagging role because the past years these midfielders Paddy Cripps, who else players superstars like Took Miller, Zach Merritt, they've just killed us, and we do need that tagging role because we can't let that happen. That's what's killing us. These midfielders just doing what they want. So I think Camden in that center just does help us out a bit.
It definitely did. And it means him doing that role means a kid doesn't have to do the role. And even though you want to get games into the kids, I think you want them to be their natural self when playing. You want to have them have that flair.
Absolutely. Like, don't get me wrong, these kids are going to be superstars, but they need that sort of like with Camden, like that coaching role, like him helping the young kids, you know, in that midfield, like the tagging role. So I like what I said, I think it's a good move.
And how are you feeling with a couple of minutes to go when the Blues were peppering the ball down the punt right end of the ground? Were you a bit on edge?
Yeah, when Sauce Savani kicked that goal, I was like, oh, geez. Well, I kind of knew they were going to come back, and I knew it was going to happen. I thought, oh, Jesus, they're on to us. But when Seth Campbell kicked that goal and he did that celebration, I thought, nah, we've got it. I knew it. I just thought, nah, we've got it. That was probably the moment when he did that backflip. That was unbelievable.
And I like that people have gotten around his celebration too. And I mean, like non-Richmond supporters saying it's the greatest celebration they've ever seen. I like that people are backing him in there.
It was probably better than a Mitchell Frederick.
It was crazy to have the energy left to do that.
Oh, it was unbelievable. The passion, and we were just so hungry. Like in that second half, we wanted it. That's what I loved. Like when Tom Brown and Hopper got that goal, we were like, you know what I mean? Like we just so passionate, and the pressure. That's what I loved. The pressure was unbelievable.
Well, I think it was 76 tackles that we laid for the game, and I can't remember the last time we would have got anywhere near that. I strongly doubt we would have in 2024. Maybe in 2023 we might have, but that is 2023 maybe. Yeah,
I know that was unbelievable. Like in 2024, like I know we had a lot of injuries, but there was just no pressure. That's why we always been losing. Like there was no pressure.
And the other thing as well, I think last year and the year before, a lot of players were bursting through our tackles. They were just breaking them and getting on with it. I didn't really sense that last night. I felt like that we were making tackles stick, and maybe it turned into some gang tackles, and we're able to actually stop them in their tracks a little bit, which killed their momentum. And seeing players like Sam Banks and Trainer to have the courage to leave their opponent to come up and impact a contest when they're so inexperienced, I think they're really good traits and signs for them.
Yeah, no, sorry, excuse me. Absolutely. They just wanted the ball, and they were just so like what I said, they were just so hungry, and you can just tell they were out there wanting to get like Tim has said, if you want to be the Richmond man, be the Richmond man, and that's what did they do? They were just hungry for the ball, and they were just competitive. That's what I just loved about it.
And that's all you want, week in, week out. If we see competitive effort, I think
Absolutely.
everyone's going to be happy. So you would have had a prime view of the Trainer smother on Patrick Cripps as well there late in the game.
Oh yeah, like it's sometimes hard to tell, like on the front of the cheers. Well, most of the times I concentrate on the screen because you can hard to tell. But that smother, what Trainer did, was unbelievable.
And then we had Ben Miller playing a good goalkeeper role. I think he saved probably two definite scores. Whether they were going in for a goal or not, I'm not sure. But the smartness and awareness for him to sit back on the line was quite helpful too. Absolutely.
Like, I think that Ben Miller was superb. Like, he did a great job on Hammer Cry, especially with Jacob Blight, even though he got injured. But a lot of people have been doubting Ben Miller. But that game he played, that was just unbelievable. Like, he was just locked. Like, he was locked on Harry Mackay. And I think maybe Silvani when he came forward. But he was locked. He was just locked. And I can't wait till we get – our back line is going to be stacked when we get, like, you know, Boltar and also Gibkiss. Like, our back line is going to be insane. But I'm very excited to get Bolter and Gibkiss back because our back line is going to be stacked.
I reckon Gibkiss could sneak forward because we can't play. We can't fit them all in otherwise.
No, I do agree. I think Gibkiss, look, I would not mind it because I remember in his junior career, he played forward. Like, I'm not against that. Like, to be fair, I would have rather have Bolter down back, not Bolter. I'm not a fan of Bolter down forward. Look, I actually don't mind the Gibkiss forward. Like, we did it in 2022, and it actually did work, and he kicked those 2 goals. Like, I wouldn't mind having Gibkiss forward because you can have, like, Lynch, Gibkiss, and Bauer. Like, I'm not against it.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. I mean, we're realistically probably going to see him after the halfway point anyway, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you think of Jacob Bauer doing centre ruck bounce duties?
Look, I was not a fan of that. He's not tall. Like, I know they've had, like, Patrick.
I agree.
I feel like they should have went with Ben Miller because he played that second ruck before. I'm not a fan of Bauer, the second ruck. I was not a fan. And what worries me against Port, like, I know they've got Swallow and Sweet, but I think they're only playing the one ruckman that's Sweet.
Yeah.
But if they do go those two ruckmen, that is a big, big concern.
Yeah, we can't do that again. I'm with you. I thought it would have been Ben Miller as well. I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. Like when they named Luke Traynor, I would have thought, okay, Ben Miller's the second one. But when they put Bell there, I went,
he's going to get hurt. Like he's not a big dude.
Exactly. Yeah, he's not a big bloke. Exactly. He's like a mid-sized forward. I wasn't a fan of it.
No, I think we might have to scrap that one. But anyway,
it
works one way or another. Any other final thoughts for this one, Seb?
Look, Tom Lynch getting 1 week. Hope they challenge it. Like I saw the footage. I'm like, yeah, Wiedering pushed him, and look, we need Tom Lynch against Port because I'm going to Port that game next week, and
nice.
Adelaide's a great place, and we really need Tom Lynch. But if he was suspended, look, there are some options like with Samson Ryan, Fawcett. I heard Fall did well today in the VFL, but
he did.
I think they'll go Samson for that experience. I just wouldn't rush Fawcett or Fall just yet. Don't get me wrong. I think they'll play this year, but just not yet.
Agree. I think we'll see Jonty Fall in maybe by mid-year. They'll give him 4 weeks at AFL level. And I think they'll keep Armstrong for 4 or 5 weeks and they might swap him over. But I think we'll definitely see him. So, good luck on the trip to Port Adelaide. I'm wrapped your head in over. Make sure you cheer louds and
I'll be there, mate. I'll be cheering
sometime soon. All the best. Thanks for jumping on. Appreciate your insights and give him hell over there.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it, mate.
No worries. Have a good one, mate.
You too.
Alrighty, this is going really well. Next up, we've got. Oh, I went the wrong one. It jumped out. Shannon, how are you, mate? Welcome.
Oh, hang on, turn this off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you there. How are you?
Oh, living the dream right now.
Living the dream. Much better going into a weekend with a win.
Yeah, it's good. It was a bit of a shock win for me, actually. I was thinking, we lose by about 30 points. I'll be pretty happy. But kind of after that half time, we cut it down to 25. I kind of had a weird feeling like maybe we're going to not get blown out and kind of the young fellas will have that youth, which then goes into the senior players and they kind of get that energy from all the young players. And that's kind of how it worked out. The Sam Lawler kind of carried the team for a bit and then all the senior players went, yeah, we can do this. We can win.
What was the point for you that was kind of like the turning point, like, oh, shit, actually, we might be a chance here?
I think it was a couple of times Harry Armstrong as a forward. A lot of times forwards kind of don't chase, but he just tackles. He hit that tackle on the wing, and I went, wow, he does not let players get away from him. A couple of times they try to get through Sam Lawler, and I've seen his highlights from under 18s, and he loves a tackle. So you could kind of see the momentum change at halftime and a couple of goals here and there. I was like, that handball to Nank from Sam Lawler, back to Sam Lawler to Ross, where he could have gone for goal. And it was just that I'm not selfish. I want us to kick a goal to keep in the game. So that kind of there was the turning point when you got Ross to kind of open up to be a good leader. So
it's a good observation because I often feel like when these youngsters play in those moments, there would definitely be the temptation to kick that goal themselves. And maybe he wasn't in the best position, but to have the presence of mind to give it to someone else in a better spot to obviously shore up the chance of a goal, he's a super mature kid.
Yeah, it is. I've kind of surprised. Like I saw him against the West Coast game. I was home sick, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch this game while I'm home. And he just finds the pockets and the holes really well. And Jason Dunstall was saying it after the game. He doesn't go to ground. You watch all the Carlton. Yeah, watch all the Carlton senior players would just be slipping over, and he would have two guys trying to tackle him, and he would still have that ball, and he would still palm it off and hit somebody. And they weren't like bad handballs; they were on time, spot on every time for a player.
There was one he had on the wing where he gave it to Armstrong, and Armstrong was the one who unfortunately slipped because it would have been a good one too. You could see what he was doing. It just didn't come off, but. I'm actually looking. We probably didn't see it too much on Thursday night, but I'm looking forward to seeing Armstrong Lawler get the ball in that middle part of the ground, delivering inside 50 a bit more as well.
Yeah, he's got a good kick. I was kind of hoping that we were gonna put him in the maybe just a couple of times in the center, just to give him a bit of a taste. But it was hard to put him in there when you had Jack Ross, Tim Taranto. I had a couple of comments I put on the Facebook page. I got blasted for it, but a few times you'd watch him just stand there, and the play would be a metre away, and then you just kind of watch the player run away, and then after half time, it just changed. I don't know what it was, what Uzi said to him, but they all just kicked into gear and started chasing.
So we're surprised to see Lawler pretty much. He spent the entire first half up forward, and then midfield second half. Like, I wonder if that's going to be the plan going into Port Adelaide, or maybe, like you said, maybe it's just because simply that the trio that was in there was working so well they didn't want to disrupt it.
Yeah, you could say that, but I think it's going to be similar to what they did with Dusty. I think they're going to do. I know I don't like the comparison of Dustin. That's a big weight to put on an 18-year-old. Yeah. But I think they're going to do maybe 60-40 as the time comes along. 60% forward. I think you have to have him there with that kick and that marking contest and that power. It is when Dusty was there in the prime. It was just a changer. You couldn't match against him.
No, exactly right. I think he'll ease into it nicely. You mentioned Jack Ross. 7 clearances he had and 4 tackles, 5 marks. It's probably easy to say that's his best game for the club.
That or the 2019 Port Adelaide game when we had no Dusty, no Trent, no Edwards, and there was the game where Lynch kicked 6 goals for us.
Yeah,
and he just I think he was only his first year, and he stood up there, and I just always thought that him, Sonzi, a couple of the other young players just haven't had a chance to be in the middle because we've always had such elite midfield players.
Yeah,
I think now we're getting that taste of what they can do when you actually give them the time, and this is what they were drafted for. Sonzi and Ross were elite midfielders in their under 18s, and now they're getting that time to show players that we are actually good midfield players.
Exactly right. And I think that wing experiment has to be done and dusted for Jack Ross. And look, for Sonzi, I would love to see him get proper midfield minutes, but he's still a victim of circumstance. But I thought he came on from sub and did well. I actually thought because of the way the team was playing and the tempo and intensity they were going at, he came on and actually matched it, which is really good.
Oh, I think he may have stepped it up a notch. There was a few times where he got that ball and he knew he was going to get hit, but he didn't care. He still was, I'm going with that ball, it's mine. It was same as it was Dow. I've been a big fan on Dow. This was probably his best game as a player. He was hungry. He was, I get the ball and I'm getting through you whether you like it or not.
Exactly right. And you're right. Good call on the Sonzi as well with putting his body in the way. There's a few times where he was clearly not going to mark the ball because of the sheer size difference, but he did enough to get in between his opponent to cause the ball to spill to ground. And it's like, that's all we want. If you can't mark it, okay, just bring it to ground and don't let them mark it and give them a free possession. And if they can all buy into that, and it feels like that's part of Uze's mantra, that defensively, there's really no excuse to not be good defensively because it doesn't take skill, it just takes effort.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. I think it was Broad said in his interview that they said it's effort and attempt. So you don't have to be the most talented player in the world, but if you just try and care, that it makes a difference. So I have a question for you. Have you ever seen 3 first-round players, first gamers, have an impact like they did tonight?
Not all in the one game. I think you would see that amount of first gamers, but even then, maybe not really that many play 3 in one go. But if they do, typically maybe one will stand out and the others might just have a so-so game, which is fine because it's their first time. But to your point, no, to have 3 players make genuine positive impacts on a game, like you've got Armstrong with that pass from the boundary line that most kids would have had a shot or done something different. Trainer looks like he's composed, wins that one-on-one contest on the half-back line to hit it out of bounds, tapping the ball at the teammates, taking marks, controlling the game, and then Lawler doing what Lawler does. I think that's very rare air to see players in their first game look so settled in such a young team. Like, you could understand it if maybe you look at like a Levi Ashcroft, for example, in a team that's so settled and so well run, it's easy to fit in. It's easy to do your job because you've got all these superstars around you. To do it in our team's not that easy.
No, it's not. It was like I watched Dusty's first couple of games when I was living in Melbourne. I was quite young, a lot younger, and I think, it's hard to see these 3 players not making it.
Agree. And I don't know if you caught any of the VFL today, but Jasper Elgar looked equally as impressive in the VFL. Probably cost himself 3 goals with some extra misses, but I think he still kicked 2. He plays a lot taller than what he is. He's a good marking option, smart with his body work, and I think the beauty is having someone like him performing puts pressure on the guys in the side to keep performing, which we desperately need.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to watch the whole game, but I did get to watch some of the highlights. And it was pretty impressive considering you had 3 tools, and all 3 tools as well put up a good game. And then it's like, well, if Lynch goes out, which I think he will go, I don't think he'll beat the suspension. I think he will because it's now the rule of Mitch Cleary said it on the show that it's not what the aftermath is, it's the intent. The intent was you went for the hip and shoulder, whether you were pushed or not. I want him there because it is Lynch. He does the Lynch pin or the Godfather that they call him now. He does make a big difference. Good nicknames, I will say that. But I just think that if he goes, I think you throw another young player in.
Who would you go? Who would you put in?
Tom Sims, I think. I know he didn't kick as many goals, but he's also that backup ruckman as well. Yeah, he's 198 centimetres. So if you don't put Samson Ryan in, and you don't want to put Bauer in, or you don't want to put Miller in, you can have Sims pinch, and you can throw Nank in the forward. We've already seen him. He can kick goals. He can mark. He can go forward and kick some goals for you. So
that was actually, I think, a part of Nank's game that he's actually elevated. His ability to kick goals. He kicked the first goal, and then he got that bullshit one out of a contest that I've got no idea how that managed to go through. But they're the kind of things, him being able to impact really helps the team out. And I think that's something he's really worked on.
He's done that a fair bit since he came to Richmond. It was just that when you didn't have Jack or Lynch didn't play, he always seemed to elevate sneaky little goals here and there. It's good because it shows all these young players that, look, I'm older and I've been there. Follow me, boys, and I'll show you how we get it done.
Games like that justify why they want him as captain. And I know supporters, we've probably all had maybe differing opinions along the way, especially when there's the prospect of Taranto, but you see him do things like that and the way he leads and how much a physical presence he's got against a player like De Koning. And you can't help but respect the guy and think they've made the right choice.
Yeah, my mum met him and said he's a giant gentle.
He's a lovely bloke from what I've seen and heard.
So it's weird my mum goes, you go from when you watch him and he is on football field, he is the roughest person you'll meet. And then outside, he's so calm. And I know they all, even Kane Corns has said multiple times, I don't think he's a good captain. But it's not what you think. It's what the players think. And I always thought he's a good captain because he's been there and he was with Trent. He learned off Trent, Jack, Rance. He's had good people to learn off through the premiership era. So why not put him in as a captain? I think he's done well.
I agree. All right, any other final thoughts, Shannon, on the Tigers?
I think we should probably lower our expectations. As good as that game was, and I think it does. It could change things. I know we can't say we're going to win every game, but it also then puts fear in another clubs that you can't just think you're going to walk over us young players because we're going to put up a fight. And then you look at the VFL; they won, so we're all pushing. So it's good. As they criticise us for cutting. They said you need to rebuild, and then they criticised us saying our team was the worst team since the Gold Coast and the Giants came in. I think we've just done what's right for the club to agree. Players didn't want to be there, so they thought, well, Super Draft's coming in. Let's just get them all in here now. Yeah,
and if they keep putting out that effort and intensity each week, whatever the result is, the result is. I think we'll be okay as supporters if we see them having a fair income crack every week. That's all we want.
Yep. All right, thanks, mate. And enjoy your rest of your life.
No worries, you too. Thanks for jumping on. Appreciate it. Before we jump over to Roddy, Pommy and Oz is in the house. How are you, Pommy? Hope you're doing well, mate. For those who didn't watch the show we did with Pommy, he literally broke down exactly how we could beat Carlton, and it happened to the absolute T. So massive respect for knowing your team inside and out and identifying the weakness. And maybe the coaches were watching and took notice of what you said, mate. But no, I appreciate the kind message as well. Very, very bizarre game. So appreciate you dropping in. I hope you're doing well, Pommy. Up next, we've got Roddy. Roddy, how are you, mate? Welcome.
Yeah, good, Michaels, mate. How are you?
Going well, thanks, mate. What did you think of the win?
Oh, it was awesome, wasn't it?
It was good. It was good. It was unexpected, but it was good. Did you get along to the game?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. My granddaughter wanted to come and watch the game with me, so I thought, no,
that's nice.
Watch it together. And then she decided that she didn't want to come at about 7 o'clock, so I was a bit late to make the trip. Yeah. It's all right. It was worth it in the end.
What were your favourite parts of the game? Was there times? Well, let's go through the first quarter first. How are you feeling at quarter time, given we'd kicked one goal and didn't look anywhere near it?
Now, to be honest, I think from what I watched on the tally, I think we were really just unlucky with the way for Carlton pressure, and we didn't really capitulate under that. I thought we were very, very good in the first quarter. I just think it was a little bit of skill error and a little bit of ball movement that let us down. But I thought we were trying to do the right things. And I think that sort of ebbed into the second quarter as well, where Carlton are a very good, very polished team. But it was very clear to see what we were trying to do. Yeah. And then once the second half sort of hit and it started to click a little bit more for us and we started to move the ball a little bit better and our efficiency went up, like the game just turned on its head really, really quickly.
It's a good point you make. One of the observations Grock and I made being there was it felt like in that first quarter, we just couldn't connect that pass from the halfback to the half forward line. Like it would either get dropped, it would get fumbled, it would hit the deck, and then the Carlton would turn it over and run it out the other way. But as the game went on, we started to hit those passes and string it together, and that's when we gave ourselves a chance to score.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at halftime we sort of went away and 40 odd points down at one point in that second quarter. And I think we just sort of went back to basics, make sure the pressure was there, make sure the fight was there, contest every ball. And, it really did. It sort of ebbed through. And then, you could see it coming from a mile out, especially on the tally. Once numbers were there at the drop of the ball and we were starting to win those one-on-ones and those 1%ers, like, I think I said halfway through the third quarter, like, we're on here. We're right up to our eyeballs in this and we're going to win this game.
Geez, you were confident in the third quarter. I like it.
I was confident before the game. I think I said on YouTube the other day that I'm tipping us to win. I think I've been pretty vocal over the course of the preseason that I want to see direct gameplay. I want to see fast gameplay as a supporter. I don't want to see this wishy-washy, slow kicks dumping down the line like we did last year. I understand why we did it last year, but I don't want to see this with the speed and the skill that we do have in our side still. And once we started playing to our strengths, I was very, very confident that we'll get a run over the top of them.
How different was the game style, do you think, from, let's say, the West Coast to Collingwood preseason games to what you saw in round one?
I think when you and I spoke about it on X with the West Coast game, we were very, very much trying different game styles. And, the slow game style didn't suit us. But when we got through that third period, when we were fast, we looked good. Collingwood are a very good side with disposal. And when they've got the ball in hand, they're going to chop up most sides.
Yeah.
And we were just inaccurate. Collingwood kicked 20 odd goals and maybe a couple of behinds, but it was the endeavour was still there. But going out round one and just saying, you know what, we're going to play with speed, we're going to play with freedom, we're going to play for the jumper. That was the biggest thing that I took pre-game was we're going to play for the jumper, we're going to play for the fans. And, you can't go wrong playing for the jumper and playing for the fans.
I agree.
Playing with heart is everything.
Yeah. And I think, like I said before, if we play with heart and intent, the result almost doesn't matter so much. Like if you go out and you lose by 40 points because the other team was just that much better, but you had a crack for all four quarters, people are going to be okay with that. And I think as long as they understand that, happy to see him take off those dangerous 45-degree kicks. If they don't come off, shit happens. I would rather us do that a few times than just keep bombing it down the line.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. It's take the game on. We're a young side, and I think a lot of people do forget that there's still a lot of good experience in our team. I mean, we've lost 3,000 games worth of experience over the last 2 years with Koch, Jack, Dusty, Titch, Grimmer,
crazy,
Asprey. But we've been fortunate, and I was just thinking about it before while I was sitting in the green room. We haven't actually lost over the last 2 years. We haven't really lost an uneven amount of experience across any line.
Yeah.
Maybe up forward without Lynch last year, we really, really struggled to have a target. And then when McKelty went down, we had no target. But through the midfield, I mean, we lose Dusty, we lose Koch, but we bring in Hopper and Taranto, and slowly Ross and players like Dow, Mackie going in there was awesome. We don't lose on that line, and I can't understate the amount of importance that both Tigger and Brody have to that back line. I was also sitting in the green room. I looked in between Broad, Tigger, Miller, and what's his name? I've forgotten.
Blight, who was in the other
and Blighty, yeah. There was more than 30 intercept marks.
Jeez, that's big, isn't it?
That's huge. I mean, Wiedering killed us all through the first half, just chopping the ball off. But a lot of those intercept marks actually allowed us in the second half to not only to keep that control, but allow us to spread and to have a little bit of trust running forward.
Yeah,
and to provide that link up, knowing that if we screw up, we turn the ball over. Our key defenders are going to make sure that we're okay. And that was very, very reminiscent of 2019, 2020, when we had Rance, when Grimes and Asprey were at their prime. Knowing that we can do whatever we want, we can take the game on forward of the ball. Knowing that our system and our back end holds up, and especially against a team like Carlton, who have a lot of speed. Fair enough without Kerno. We held up incredibly well.
I think the big difference from maybe last year is the midfield and half forwards and wings helping as a team defense unit. It actually allows us to set up a little bit better behind the ball. And one thing I noticed that changed in that second half is, in the first quarter, the Blues were able to systematically pick their way through our zone set, whatever it was, to get down the ground. But by the end of it, they were having to dump kick down the line, which is exactly what we want to do with the way we set up. So we actually, team defensive-wise, we're all switched on it and really helped each other out.
Absolutely. And I think that's really, really important going forward. I mean, we're going to lose a lot of games here and there. Youthful exuberance for last night. We ran right over the top of them, young legs having a sniff, going in real underdogs. And it wasn't, I guess for a lot of the boys, it would have been a fairy tale story. No one likes going in that bigger underdog and losing, and if you've got a little bit of belief there, you're going to win. But I genuinely don't reckon we're anywhere near as bad as what a lot of people make us out to be. We've still got a lot of A-list players. Taranto, Nank was absolutely huge last night.
Yeah,
players like Hopper and even just having Tommy Lynch back, the amount of structure that he gives us moving the ball forward, and not just forward inside 50, but coming out of D50 as well. He had 5 inside 50s himself last night, which shows the amount of work rate that he puts in every single game to try and get us to structure up. And that's it's been hard for 2 years without having him out there, but we have him out there for one game, and we beat what a lot of people thought were premiership favourites coming into 2025.
It's no coincidence, is it? Like, even late in the game, he charged up to the wing and took a big contested mark at a point in time where we needed to start holding marks to chew up more of the clock. And it just, without him there, those things don't happen. And he makes such a big difference.
Oh, absolutely.
What did you think of the debutants? Are you happy with how they went?
I thought Luke Trainer was absolutely incredible. I mean, we won the game based off our second, third efforts running in waves. But the way that he threw himself and willed himself through every contest, caused spillages, laid tackles, I thought he was absolutely immense. Lawler did what Lawler was always going to do, what we all hoped that we thought he'd do. But Trainer was really the one that stood out that, we genuinely picked up an absolute steal here. Armstrong, I was always a big advocate for Armstrong. He's going to be every bit as good as Matty Lloyd was. I genuinely believe that. But, geez, Luke Trainer getting all the way through the first round like that. I mean, I almost would have picked him before Foss. I genuinely think he's that good after watching last night. And he's only going to get better.
He is. He just looks super composed. And with Harry Armstrong, I think there'll be an oversensing whelm of relief when he does take that first mark and kick a goal. He deserves it because he's worked his ass off the last couple of games, even one of them being a practice match. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got next week as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all we can ask for is for him to crush a few packs and bring the ball to ground, and especially with players like Mance. And, I mean, Seth Campbell was absolutely huge last night with a lot of his tackles, a lot of those 1% pressure acts, making sure that he was the extra number at the contest. I mean, I could go on all night, Michael's mate, about how good we were all over the park. I could, even Sonsi, when he came on, provided so much buzz around the contest. Didn't get a lot of the footy, but he was there.
He did. He had a good impact.
That's all we can ask from these boys week in, week out, is that they show up, they play 4 quarters football, play for the jumper, and if we win 5 or 6 games, then everyone will be over the moon. If we win 2 games, if we don't win another game for the rest of the year, and we show 4 quarters of heart every week, I don't think there's one Richmond fan in the world that will sit there and be disappointed with that.
I'm with you 100% on that, mate. I absolutely agree. Any final thoughts, Roddy, on the Tigers?
I got to give a little bit of credit to Oos. I've said a lot over the preseason. I want to see his fast game plan, and if he's not willing to implement it, then given you.
Oh no.
But he sat back and just let us play football and let us play with speed. That was the best thing he could have done. I just hope we continue with it and continue to build.
Long may the fast gameplay continue. So thank you very much, Roddy, for your time and your comments tonight, mate. Much appreciated, and we'll definitely have you back on for the next one for sure.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Thank you. All right, next up we have, is it Orosi? Have I said that correctly?
Close enough. How you going?
Close enough. Good, mate. Yourself. Thank you for holding on. How you been?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, bloody good after last night, I can tell you that.
How much better is your weekend, especially when you play on a Thursday and you get a win? Because we've known what it's felt like the other way around when you lose on a Thursday and you've got the whole weekend to think about it. It just makes it so much better.
Oh, yeah. I was watching the game earlier. Makes it so much better knowing that we're up the top and Collingwood and Carlton are down the bottom.
Are we still? Where are we sitting on the? Are we still in the 4? Has anything else happened to put us outside of it? We should be 4. Very good.
I don't know if the Hawthorn game's over yet, but we would be 4 if it is.
I just had a look before. I think they're doing a number on Essendon, which is good. So, yeah. How are you feeling during the game? What was the emotions like when you see the first quarter compared to the last few quarters?
Look, honestly, like when the game was starting, the first quarter, if the game had ended after that, I would have actually been pretty happy with what I expected going into it. Like there was more effort than there was last year, and that's all I really wanted to see. Especially the second quarter when we went on that run right at the end, I was actually very happy. Just as it went on, because I didn't get to go to a lot of the games during the glory years, but the atmosphere last night was just insane. It's probably the best.
Funny you say that about that run in the second quarter, because I said the exact same thing to Grock. I'm like, after we got 3 or 4 in a row, I said, you know what? If we don't score for the rest of the game and it ends now, it's an improvement that we've kicked consecutive goals, because I couldn't remember the last time we got on a roll ourselves with 3 or 4 goals, and I thought that was just a really good step forward. So then go on with it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's even better.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I thought we were going to drop off a little bit in the second half.
Yeah, I think so too. Is that just because of the young legs? I think a lot of people around us were expecting us to fade away in that last quarter just because they'd worked so hard to pull back a 41-point deficit to then hit the front. It can sometimes just take a bit out of you.
Yeah, mostly because of the young legs. Like, you have so many players who are, around 10 to 20 games into their careers. Like, you don't expect them to put a full 4-quarter effort in already. All you really want to see from them is glimpses.
Yeah, exactly right. I was waiting for him to all start cramping up. I think a few of the boys did, but they got through.
Yeah.
Were there any of the second to third, fourth year players that stood out for you?
Obviously Mansell, but he was amazing last year. Just his effort throughout the whole game. When he went down, I was bloody crushed. I was so glad when he got back up. Third or fourth year player. Does Ross still count?
Yeah, sure, we'll count him. Yeah, it'd a big game.
If he doesn't get 3 Brownlow votes for this game, it's a travesty.
Oh, you reckon you've got him for the 3? Okay,
100%. Who do you have?
I don't know. And we've still got to do our votes on Monday night, and I've got no idea because so many players could fit into a 5-4-3-2-1. But Rossi would definitely be up there. If it's not 3, it would have to be 2. He was pretty pivotal. Mank was good. Even someone like Miller was good as well. I thought outbodying Mackay was pretty special. But no, it was good to see the young guys all stand up when they had to.
Yeah.
Oh, Ross number 1 for meters gained. There you go. So we got some meter gain stats as well. Very good for Rossi.
Yeah, no, Ross was fantastic. Those 2 goals, in the moment and how he scored them were just so important. Because they were cracking goals, firstly, and then the moments when he scored them as well, crazy.
Yeah, that one on the tighter angle too. That's not an easy kick to do, and he done well. What about Tom Brown's game? How did you see his game? Obviously took that clutch mark that it almost fell out of his arms, but he held on to it and kicked a goal. What did you make of his game?
Tom Brown is one of my favorite players in the team, just in general.
Yeah,
I know he didn't have the disposals today, but his kicking, as soon as he marked it right at the end of the third quarter, I had no doubts that he was going to kick it. He's 10 games in, or not? Sorry, 20 games in.
And I think people forget that too. He's still so inexperienced and so young.
Oh yeah, he's just such a good kick, and he seems like he's played 70 games. He just seems like a veteran already.
And what I love about his kicking and also Jaden Short's, from the kickouts in particular, how they're able to gain 10, 15 metres from leaving the square. And they're such powerful kicks that they're getting it literally to the wing. And I would much rather that than kick it to the pocket first and then let everyone rush over. So, I'm more than happy for them to keep using him like that. Do you think the back line is his best spot for Tom Brown?
Well, I think you were saying earlier about Gibcus possibly swinging forward. Yeah. And when you were saying that, I was just thinking, I think I'd rather Tom Brown up forward.
Yeah, okay.
Than Gibcus.
Yeah.
Gibcus is a little bit taller, if I'm remembering correctly, right?
Yeah, he would be, yeah.
Yeah. But just Brown's kicking and his vision and his quickness, I just think he'd translate better to the forward half than Gibcus would.
And we tried that a little bit last year as well. We probably weren't playing good enough as a team to see it work properly, I guess. But I could even see him do something on a wing too, if what we were doing now didn't quite pan out, if they needed an extra rotation or something like that. It just feels like that he is the type of player who's got a lot of strings to his bow and can play in multiple spots for us.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I just hope we don't go down the Bolter path and confuse him by moving him everywhere.
Yeah, hopefully not. That's true. With Tom Brown, though, last season up forward, he was playing mostly as the number 1 target, wasn't he? Just with all the injuries.
I think so. I think he did end up having to do that at some point in time once McKelty went down as well. So not really his forte being a key forward, but even playing as a half forward would be unbelievable. He can start dropping bombs from 60.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's great. Speaking of the wing, though, Trezise and was it Banks? They impressed me so much.
Yeah, Trezise was good in the first quarter. He was probably our main disposal getter, I reckon.
I think he was. Yeah, I went to go get a hot dog and missed the next 5 minutes, but I think he was our main disposal getter. He's just I didn't realize how strong he was. The amount of tackles that he was just taking and still handballing out of it. I just thought that was great.
He had a good bit of play towards the end with an underground handball and running to the next contest, taking the body contact as well to be able to release someone else into space. It was just those small things that I think we all hoped and thought he would be able to do it, but we just haven't seen him for an extended enough period of time because his body's let him down. So hopefully he can stay out on the park because it sounds like that Uze's keen to have a left foot winger and he's put his hand up for the gig.
I think the left foot thing is just a bonus. I would have him in the team either way. But,
I would too.
Yeah, hopefully his body holds up.
Do you prefer? I know we've seen him on halfback a little bit as well. Do you prefer the halfback version or the wing version?
I think we don't have a designated winger if you disregard K-Mac. I'm very happy for him to play on the wing for a while until Ralph Smith gets back, of course. But
so what happens there? Do you reckon when because Hugo's probably going to walk straight back onto the wing spot? What happens to Trezise then?
Well, Hugo can play on
or is
right.
it Dow? Or is it Dow that might miss out?
I would keep Trezise in there over Dow. Dow still had a great game. No knock on Dow, but I'd have Trezise over him.
It's going to be an interesting selection. Hugo's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 weeks away. It's weird, isn't it? Because we know the team's young and inexperienced, but at the same time, it almost feels like we do have some potential selection headaches in the near future. Like Prestia returns, Bolter's going to come back in a few weeks, and it's like what if these guys in the back line, for example, start getting really settled, get into good rhythm, good routine, working well together? Like how much do you disrupt it with Bolter coming back? Because he comes straight back in. Like he doesn't not play.
100%. Yeah, 100% he does. But I reckon Trainer, I think he could push forward a little bit. I wouldn't be upset about that. Or Brown.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
They're both great kicks. Both go really hard at it, both quick. I don't think you could go wrong pushing them forward at all. On Prestia, I think he could struggle actually to get back in, as much as I love him.
Possibly.
He's just a bit slow. as much as I love him and as much as he's done for the club, you need speed through that midfield, and I just think putting him in there with Hopper and Taranto will just cause a lot of problems that we didn't see against Carlton.
I'm right with you, and I've been banging on about that exact thing for a while. Just that midfield mix and the balance, we have to make sure we get it right, because we didn't have it right against Collingwood for some reason, but for whatever reason it worked better against Carlton. Maybe Carlton were a little bit slower themselves, but yeah, I just don't know if Hopper, Taranto, Prestia go into that same midfield.
I'd say probably not. For me, I don't know. I'm not the coach.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
On the young guys, I just want to before the draft happened, I was expecting we had 8 picks, didn't we, before the draft, and then we traded and whatever happened, but we still ended up with 8. I was hoping that 4 of them would turn into solid AFL players, and then from what we've seen from preseason and what we've seen from the first game, obviously, there's 5 or 6 that you look at them and you don't know how they're not going to pan out. I don't want to jinx them, but.
No, I'm hearing you, and a lot of people, I suppose, say, "Oh, you might only get 50% come through," and it's like, well, you probably still take 50%, but we've seen 3 at AFL level, and I know it's a very small sample size, but you'd be absolutely gobsmacked if they didn't go on with this and make a fist of an AFL career. And then, I don't know if you saw any of the VFL today, but it's honestly hard to see Jasper Alger not being an AFL footballer. He just looks like he's got what it takes to play. Just it's just a timing thing for him. And then Jonty Fall will be another. Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is going to be looked back upon as one of the most outrageous drafts that a team's nailed in for quite some time.
Oh yeah, I would not be surprised at all. And even Tom Sims, when we picked him, I was like, I don't want to say I wasn't disappointed, but I was just kind of confused because we had already picked all the tools.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
And just to see him in preseason, how hard he goes at the ball and how physical he is. I didn't think he'd be that physical. I think we nailed that one as well.
It's a common trait with those tools. You look at Armstrong, Jonty Fall, and Sims, and the main common trait is they love crashing packs. They love the physicality, and it just seems like that this is where the vision of Blair and Uze, where they think football's going and how much they value that side of the game. And it's going to be so helpful for us to be able to bring Smalls into the game. I think it's going to be the way we come back up the ladder, hopefully.
Yeah, well, you're saying that about crashing packs, getting the Smalls into it. If you disregard the settled guys in the back 50, I think our small forwards are probably our best area. I don't know if that's controversial or not, but just to get them more involved in the game, I think that can only do us good, just because a lot of them are so skilled.
How do you think Steely Green went, being a small forward? He probably seems a bit of an unsung, I would say hero, but I thought he put in a really, really good effort.
100%. I kind of dawdled on getting tickets. I ended up halfway up the nosebleeds, but couldn't really see him on the day. But watching the replay, and I checked the stats and everything, I think, did he end up with 9 tackles?
I think that was Thompson Dow that ended up with the 9 tackles.
Oh, Dow. Sorry.
What did Steely get?
He got a few, didn't he?
Where are we? Tackles. Steely Green had 5. That's still good going. Five
quite
tackles,
a few,
2 marks.
But yeah, I didn't notice him as much at the ground. But yeah, watching the replay, he was just the amount of energy he brought. I thought was great. I was kind of surprised that he was in the team over Morris.
Yep. I think you could have flipped a coin for either one of those. But hopefully, people don't get too caught up on the disposal column for him. He only had 7 touches, but to your point, the tackles, the pressure acts, and things like that, even though they're not registering a disposal, it's equally as important when it comes to trying to kick a winning score.
Oh yeah, well, I understand if people are worried about disposal counts if they're just looking at the stats, but especially with Harry Armstrong, you can't look at the disposals.
No.
Packs he crashed, like he didn't even take many marks, but just the disruption he gave and the tackles he put in and everything like that, it was completely worth it. Even if you got 0 disposals.
I reckon you ask any coach and they see efforts like that, they're picking him the next week. Because it's the age old. Like he'll get rewarded for the effort at some point. Like he'll clunk a couple and kick a few goals and feel better about himself. But he's doing the hard yards early.
100%. It was like a couple of years ago in the grand final with Billy Frampton. All those people were giving him shit because he had 1 disposal at halftime.
Yes. Yep.
But he did like a proper job on Harris Andrews. Like I feel like just a lot of people look at disposals and think that's the be all and end all. I just think you have to look a bit deeper than that.
Yeah, it's a fair call. It's a fair call. It's hard because people always look for metrics to measure by, and that's the main one, I suppose. Any other final thoughts on the Tigers for this week or next week? You reckon we'll go right against Power?
Look, so much for all those people calling us winless.
Yeah, I know.
Look, even as someone else said before, I don't remember who it was, sorry, but even if we don't win a game for the rest of the year and we put in that effort consistently week in, week out, I'll be very, very happy.
Yeah.
Like whether we beat the Power or we lose to the Power, it's just the effort and the young guys showing out that you want to see.
100%. They put in that same effort. Anything can happen, and they'll be beaming with confidence. So, hopefully Port maybe think twice a little bit with how they're going to handle us when we go over there. But fingers crossed we get a big effort. So thank you so much for jumping on, mate. Really appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me.
We'll definitely do it again soon. No worries at all.
100%. See you later.
See you, mate. Mortal Wombat's up next. How are you, Mortal?
No, not bad. Yourself? Can you hear me?
Thank you. Thank you for holding on. Appreciate it. Yep. Got you there. How are you feeling with a win under our
thanks
belts?
for having us on.
No problem at all. Thank you for jumping on.
Look, it took the pressure off for the rest of the year.
Do you think it means that literally that much? Yeah.
I think it does. Look, a lot of people, like online, everywhere, everyone's been really nervous about how we were going to go this year, especially with such a young list and the external noise of it's the worst list in history. I think that win has just kind of eased a lot of nerves for, I think, maybe the Tiger Army, which I think is the rest of the year. We'll take a few big losses, but I don't think it'll be as bad now.
Like, even if we look, let's say we look to round 5, for example, how much different do you think round 5 looks now that we've had a win compared to if we were 0-4 heading into round 4, 5, and 6 in terms of the pressure internally and externally?
Oh, it's huge weight off the shoulders. Like, that's the monkey off the back.
Yeah.
That's definitely just the monkey straight off the back. You can't beat that. Like, the kids have got belief now. Like, they know they can do it. They've done it. And I think that's going to be a big step going forward for the rest of the year. So I think personally, for whatever comes after that, is all gravy.
And it can actually become a bit infectious, that confidence and belief. Like, you would love to be a fly on the wall in some of these meetings post-game just to see their reactions. And like we said earlier, I think Uze did really well to kind of keep it in check in his post-game presser. But those type of wins are going to be worth so much to these kids from experience. And I think I heard Uze say that was even James Trezise' first win, who's been with us for a couple of years now, and like what that now means to him.
Think is doing
no, it's dropping.
Push us all going, have a bad loss or run a bad game. It's not going to be as bad. Beat that. Watch the second quarter. They fought that. I think it's just going to continue on for the rest of the season.
Fingers crossed. We missed a little bit of that. I think the internet chopped in and out there, but yeah, hopefully the boys keep that form up. What were your thoughts on the young brigade, the debutants in particular?
Sammy Lawler's, I think the first time I really took notice of him, he took a contested mark, fended the guy off. The Carlton player retackled, and he just had time to just offload it perfectly. I was just like, that first touch, he was calm under pressure, and instantly I just felt he was all right. Like, he's going to be a star.
It's a weird feeling when you feel comfortable with a first gamer with ball in hand being able to control the game like that.
Yeah. Even the first quarter, look, we were getting run over, but I didn't really start to feel worried. Like, even when we were 40 points down, I was like, look,
yeah, right.
My thought was, as long as we can chip it back to under 30 points and keep it there, that'll rattle Carlton for the rest of the year. And it was just a flow-on effect from then. I think the boys just took a little bit of time to work themselves into the game. And once they did, they were just unstoppable.
It definitely felt like they settled after halftime. Like, I'm not sure if the message changed, if there was any sort of minor tweaks. Actually, the one tweak that I did notice, I think we deliberately shifted Jacob Bauer to play a little bit deeper to kind of man-mark Wiedering a bit, because he was cutting everything off. And Wiedering's an exceptional defender. How much of a part do you think that plays, being able to have someone like Jacob Bauer play a selfless role in pretty much trying to keep Wiedering accountable?
Well, I was watching the game, like I was watching it on the telly, and the commentary team was saying that Wiedering was a show to take the most intercept marks in history in a game, because he was already at like 7 or 8 or something in the second or third quarter. Like, he was on track to break the record, and that move from Bauer just nullified it. I think he took a couple more, but I don't think he got the record. But yeah, just there was little moves that were made that just sort of put everything into play. And there was a couple of standout things that I noticed, just shifting the mentality. I think the second half we came out and it looked like the boys were taking the game on. They believed we can beat these guys. They got that couple of goals, and it just sort of spread from there. Once we got that 3 in a row, they came out after halftime, and it just gave me flashbacks to the 2017 grand final. I think it was Brandon Ellis walking down the tube going, they're not that tough. And it was that's the memory it gave me. They came out after halftime going, we can beat these blokes. And they did it convincingly.
Were you at all worried that we'd run out of gas in the final quarter?
Third quarter, I was a bit iffy. But once we tied it up, I was like, nah, this is anyone's game. We're in this with a shot. Like, I'd be very disappointed. Once we tied it up at 57 apiece, that's when I was like, nah, we're in this. We've got a shot. We've definitely got a shot. And then we kicked the first of like the last quarter. It was a bit crazy because I think the stat was 80% of that last quarter, or over 80%, was played in Carlton's forward half. They kicked like 1-4 or 1-5, and we kicked 2 goals. And it was rock solid. Like, Broad and Vlosten were huge. They were huge.
And even
Miller
was,
sorry.
No, I was just about to say, like how you mentioned, we leveled the game up, and how nice was it and refreshing to see. Not only was it the experienced guys were able to sort of keep doing what they were doing, but you got a first gamer in Lawler and Lukey Trainer lift their game to the level as well within the 4 quarters to help get the team over the line. Like, it's just something you don't see all that often. I mean, Lawler kicks that goal to hit the front. You're like, no, we're on here.
I think they were working on a like a team effort. Like, on the broadcast, you kept hearing the same Carlton names. Like, it was Lawler, Mackay, Mackay, Wiedering, Tom de Koning, and Cripps. Those were the 4 names you kept hearing on the broadcast. Whereas Richmond, it was like every player kept popping up.
Yeah,
it was
fair
like
point. Yeah,
they shared the load a lot better, and they were they just seemed to be a more cohesive unit just across the broadcast.
and one thing I noticed post game, and I know stats aren't the be all and end all, but we had, like, to your point, and it makes sense now, we actually had a really good spread of disposal winners as well. So we weren't relying on Taranto to get 35 and try and kick 2. Like, even if he only got, high 20s or whatever, but there was more plays getting more of the ball and sharing the load, which was, it helps. It helps. You can't just get relying on one player every week.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was a big thing in us being able to run the game out as well, because nobody was shouldering all of the load. And I've posted this on the forum, the BF forum as well. Serple's work has done wonders because we were outrunning them in that second half. There was a couple of times where players just took Carlton players on and just out sprinted them, and it was amazing. Seth Campbell, that last goal, I was screaming. Like, I got yelled at from across the house because I was just screaming. My kids were watching it with me, and we were just like, I'm like, look at him go, and then he got it, and I was, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it. I just watched him torch that player, and he came from, it was a good 5 or 6 meters behind him, and he torched him across like 70 meters or whatever it was.
And even
amazing.
The play before that, where he had like the multiple repeat efforts, and to your point about Serple, with the way he's changed our running styles, and they're working on more sprinting from contest to contest, and it's things like that that make it really applicable, because he was able to tackle, chase, harass, get to the next guy, tackle, chase, harass while Mantle's down behind play, and then he puts enough pressure on to cause a turnover and we score a goal from it. So I know that his methods have been a really big change from what the guys have been used to, but hopefully when you see something like that as a team, you're like, right, it's working. Let's really buy into what he's doing, which I think they have. But they'll buy into it a hell of a lot more, and hopefully we see some better results from it.
Definitely. I think our senior guys really stood up too. Like Broad and Blossom were huge in defence. Really marshaled the troops, and Miller in that last half was just unbelievable. Just the way he just, every time he got it, he just told him, just chill for a sec. Let's get the spread, and just they started picking it apart. It was beautiful. The pressure built, and watching it on telly, you just saw the unforced errors just coming and coming from Carlton, and it was contagious. It was infectious both ways. Like, we lifted, and they just capitulated.
It was weird, wasn't it? Because they were all dropping uncontested marks. 2 people were going up for the same ball, and then Harry Armstrong swoops in and kicks it to Bauer, who scores. They were all over the shop, and maybe that was a lot to do with our pressure as well, hopefully. But yeah, it was a strange old second half.
It was a couple of things I noticed. K-Mac kept Cripps to 1 behind. Cripps only got like 200 meters gains, and K-Mac, I think, finished with like over 300. So I think even though Cripps got more disposals, he didn't really do as much with them, if that makes sense.
Yep. I think that had to be the plan. Realistically, Cripps is going to get 30. He's just a gun. But if you can limit the damage of the 30, that was the key.
Yeah. Well, you take 1 behind over 3 goals any day of the week. So
for sure. Yeah.
And I think Nank pretty much bodied Tom de Koning. Like, I think he just bodied him. I know Tom de Koning had a pretty good game, but I think Nank won the hit-out contest and just dominated more.
I think as a team, we did well to not let de Koning get off the leash around the ground. That was my big concern, because he's obviously a lot more fitter and agile than what Nank is. I thought he might get forward quicker and get into dangerous spots, but we just didn't allow it to happen, because he could have easily bobbed up and kicked 3 or 4 if we didn't do that properly.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was a great watch, and there was moments in that game that was just, look, Lawler is going to be a gun. Trainer is an absolute star. Harry Armstrong is going to be a weapon, and I can't wait to see the rest of the boys come into the side, and just pick it up and run with it.
It's going to be fascinating to see where we go from here with this one. So, any final thoughts on the Tigers, or your thoughts on next week? How will we go against the Power? Can we take this form into the Power game?
Look, I'm going to temper my expectations. look, I'd love to see us get up and win again and just, show the competition that, hey, we've got this. But look, I saw a game plan last night, and I was happy with it. As long as we can replicate it and, keep it respectable, the scoreline that is, I'll be happy with that.
I'm with you. Like, if we can keep executing the game plan and do the process, we'll cop some losses along the way, no doubt. But if they still show the same intent and they're trying to do the same thing, then it's easy to cop, isn't it? Like, if you end up losing because Port are too good, so be it. But just imagine if we went 2-0, though. Imagine the the melts across the footy world would be epic.
Look, that when we beat Port in 2017, that was the start of our grand final run. So, history could repeat itself.
And we actually traditionally do okay in Port against Adelaide when we're undermanned and got our backs up against the wall, don't we? So strange things have happened. But yeah, we'll see how we go there. But thank you for jumping on, Water Wombat. Much appreciated, mate. We'll definitely do this again in the next coming weeks as well.
Too easy, thanks.
No worries. Thank you, mate. And last came off the rank. Thank you for hanging around. Birdman, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, Michael?
Good yourself. You've shown great patience. I appreciate you hanging around.
No, good to just listen to you guys chat along, and it was insightful, really cool.
And how are you feeling with the game all through it, the first quarter and to the last quarter? Did you think we were going to get there in the end?
Look, I didn't think, like, after the third quarter, I was pretty happy at the end of it, being like, you know what, if the fitness doesn't kind of do us in the end, then I would have been like, yeah, it's okay. Like, they're all young, they're all fit. And we did kind of see that in the fourth quarter. A lot of the young players started cramping up, and Lawler, I think in the last couple of minutes, he tried to kick the ball and it barely made like 15 meters because he was probably that knackered.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like a huge testament to like the just the culture of the club, I guess, just to keep fighting. And I think I was pretty stoked by the end of it. I think no one expected it, and I think like even on like the big footy forums and whatnot, I mean, I think we need to put some respect back onto Adam Uze's name, because he probably outcoached Voss with a much on paper worse team, with Bauer dropping back and taking their best defender away from the game. Is I think we're starting to see the game plan from Adam Uze. So look, I think it's exciting times, to be honest.
I think that's what people were after, wasn't it? I think for whatever the reasons, we just didn't see the game plan last year. And I think the reasons are probably a little bit more well-known now. He had his hands tied a little bit. There was dimmer assistants still there that were trying to override and do whatever. And yeah, now he's got his actual team with him. You can't help but feel someone like Blake Caracella has such a big say on how these things work out.
Yeah, exactly. I think they were really... I mean, the camera kept cutting back to the box, and like you saw all the faces in that box with Adam Uze, Caracella, Newman. All those faces are very experienced people, and they just look calm the whole time. So even when the game was being in the thick of it, they all seemed pretty, straighty 180. And then Voss was stressing out, like he was in the box, and then he dropped down to the touch line and was trying to like G up his players, whereas the Richmond box just looked calm and collected. They seemed like they were going through the motion. And I think, not to kind of like, or to go back to the coaching, I think it was, Voss in his press conference at the end of the game, he even said that the way that we controlled the game at the end defensively was a huge surprise. Like, top teams do that, and he was not expecting Richmond to be able to control the game the way that they did.
I didn't say. Okay, that's interesting.
So Voss at the end was saying that a top team, like good teams, can't do what we did at the very end, which was basically tighten the screws in the last 5 minutes when the pressure was on us. So, I mean, Carlton did themselves no favors. They did drop some pretty marks. And I guess like when you hear the media and you hear them talk, I mean, how much of it was were we really good, or how much of it was they were really bad? So I would like to know what you think of that.
I think we definitely forced some bad shots at goal for them, which was good. I think early they probably did drop a couple of chances, and the scoring shots probably indicated they could have been a bit further ahead. But then, like, you look back to the Collingwood preseason game, and they kicked 21 goals, 2, and then the next week they kicked 2 goals, 15 or whatever it was. And you just got to take your chances. But for them, 41 points up in that position, as good of a team as they should be, they should not have let us back in. And maybe they got a bit complacent, and there's been a lot of talk from Carlton people saying that maybe they drank their own bathwater. But it just makes you think that our guys, you always hear the word process, don't you? And it's like, did they just literally block out the score, everything else, and just go, no, we're just going to stick to what we're doing, and the tide will change. And it must be really difficult to train yourself to believe that. But yeah, credit to Uze and the staff, because the pre-season probably didn't look like we were going to see what we saw, but it was almost like a gradual progression, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think we also got to put, a testament to like the club's culture and the fact that we've won 3 premierships and we've been very competitive for the last couple of years. That culture has kind of kept going. And so I think you see it with Geelong, you see it with other teams that have been successful for an extended period of time. Like, that kind of culture doesn't really leave the club. I mean, some really bad things would have to happen for the culture to just collapse like that. So I think we're seeing the benefits of like that dynasty and that belief. And I think I was watching the Dan Does Footy podcast, and he was saying they were at the game. One of them was at the game, and he was saying like, as the game progressed, the fans, like the Richmond fans, slowly started to build, and it started to feel like 2020 or 2019, 2017. It felt like that again, like the confidence, not just by the players, but the fans as well, kind of reminded them of that. And so all the opposition teams remember, they're still fresh in the memories of what we were like. And so when that momentum comes again and the fans get up, then I feel like, they could panic. Like, teams can panic at the MCG with a Richmond 80,000, stadium.
And it was really loud. Like, it was pumping. And I think there was even a few players that said post-game that by the end of it, they were feeding off the energy of the crowd, and that was kind of edging them on, which is exactly what you want. That's, in a lot of ways, that's our role, isn't it, as supporters, to try, and if it's a close game, give them that extra boost to try and help them out as best we can. And it's good that they responded in the way they did.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I don't know if many people have mentioned this, but I really want to like highlight, Dow. I think he got his hands on the ball so much, and obviously sometimes like they were just hacking it forward because they just had to. But his ability to get his hands on the ball and put in that effort for the 4 quarters, I thought was really special. And like I didn't see him make that many mistakes. Like, I didn't see him like a deliberate act from him to turn the ball over. I did see that with Bauer. I did see it with a few other players, but I mean, I think Dow had a really solid game. And I think a lot of these players are, they're reading all the media, they're reading what people say of them. And I think like Ross, Dow, and this is the year for them to really cement their spot in the team, because there's so many young players that are really good that are going to come in and challenge them for their spot. So this is their chance.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, even we kind of questioned a little bit how will Dow go on a wing, but he did a bit more inside midfield stuff, which he seems more suited to. But his desperation, his tackling, the clearance kick forwards, it is what it is. I mean, all other players from all other clubs, including our own, do it, so we shouldn't judge too harshly on that. But I'm spewing he didn't get that goal, though. You could tell, look, he probably had 2 options he could have given it off to if he wanted to. I can also respect and understand from his perspective he really wanted that moment, and I get it. It's a shame he didn't get it. But, full credit to him. I mean, the 9 tackles and the 27 pressure acts. you're 100% locking yourself into play next week doing things like that.
Huge.
So,
and I think lastly, because I don't want to keep this going too long, but I made a claim on the forums, like I think on draft night or after that, and I'm still standing to it, which will be, we saw how good Sammy was in the game, but I genuinely believe that Josh Smiley will be the best player from that draft.
So, I thought you were going to go trainer then. So you reckon Smiley will be the best?
I reckon Smiley will be the best player from that draft. He may take a little bit longer, but just because of his injuries and whatnot. But his first start to the year last year in his draft class, he was so dominant. And I think him being in the middle with players like Prestia and a few of those ball getters like Ross and whatnot, I think he will really shine. So I don't know. I mean, I looked at Lawler's jersey, the bid. I think it's at like what, $4 or $5 grand to pick up his match worn jersey. I think, yeah, he's a special player. But I'm putting myself out there, and I'm going to say Josh Smiley will be thereabouts around the same.
How do you think he'll be integrated into the side? Obviously, we see Lawler playing half forward for a half, and then playing midfield. When Smiley comes in, do you see him doing something similar? Or because I've seen him play half back and do that really well too. I don't know whether we'd want to disrupt our back line too much because it's probably our most settled part of the ground. But how do you see us integrating Smiley?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, he has played halfback in his juniors, and he has done that really well. And I think purely just because of his size and his athleticism, that put him in the midfield. They was able just to body other smaller players. I think if you're going to try out young players, I think Lawler's the player that you put forward, and I think Smiley's the one that you would put back. I do think he will come in. I think with these young players, they are going to get rotated, and I don't think we should get disappointed with that. I think same with Lawler, same with all those players. They're all going to get, barring injury, like these little kind of pockets of games, 5 games here, 2 in the reserves, and all that kind of stuff. Because the last thing that we want is to get some bad injuries happening to these players, because they're all going to want to play and they're all going to want to give their all. And I was kind of worried towards the end of the game when I saw Trainer like kind of really like grimacing his thigh, I think it was. I think he was cramping up pretty bad. And I was just like, don't go too hard. Like, I know the game's in the balance, but I just didn't want them to like hurt themselves in that, because they've got a long career ahead of them.
100%.
And I think we need to just be patient with their fitness.
I wouldn't be shocked if, say, we do like a block of 4 or 5 games. I wouldn't be shocked if we even actually bypassed the VFL and just said have a week off, 2 weeks off, because it's a big ask. Like, to go from under 18 football to AFL riggers, and someone like Lawler, as we know, has never done a full footy pre-season before, but he's now ripped. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually gave him some injuries permitting, of course, with the depth of the team, but actual time off. I think that would be an important thing to do.
Yeah. Just the last one. How spewing do you think North Melbourne is that they didn't split their number 2 pick to get Trainer and a few other players?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because would they have been game enough to take him? I mean, at various stages, like you'd know, he was touted top 5, top 10, and was alongside Taru as the best intercept mark. He was probably... Trainer was probably number 1 in that sense all the way, wasn't he? And then it was the concussion stuff that scared everybody. But I think a few clubs, if you were to fast forward to the end of the year and then redo the draft again, I reckon a few clubs would take Trainer before when he went. I think he could end up being one of the best of the class too. He's just got IQ, footy IQ. He's just a smart football. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even this sounds so
he's
minor,
always smiling. He's always enjoying it.
Yeah, and even like there was a couple of times where a senior player had marked the ball and he would like run around for the handball to kick it. It's like not the balls to do that, but you're the new kid on the block. You're backing yourself. You're understanding maybe the skill difference limitations between the 2 players and identifying that you could be a better kick of the ball and to execute it and be trusted to do that. I don't know. It just oozes leadership and class, and it's pretty exciting to see where he's going to go with his football.
Yeah, and he's one of those players that he will definitely need heaps of rest. But the problem is that we want him to play because they're so good, and we want to win, But we're in a tough situation where we want to see these young players play every game, but I think patience with that from the Richmond faithful will go a long way, and I'm excited to see Jonty Fall, Harry Armstrong, all those players. I think what the thing that we missed in the Carlton game was a really good small forward, as in, yes, Mansell and Seth Campbell played really good games, but if we had Kakao or something like that, but then I see Algar on the weekend in the VFL.
He was good.
This draft is just looking we're getting carried away here with one game, but it looks like, that this draft is going to be I'm not saying echoes of, what was it, the Hawks draft? What was it, 2008?
Yeah.
Was it that one?
Yeah, the mega draft.
It looks that way.
But we said in the lead up, this is going to be the Chris Toshay legacy draft. The amount of picks we had and how well we identified talent. Alga, honestly, today, if you watch him today, it's hard to imagine him not playing soon. He plays taller than what he is. He's a good user of the ball, knows where the goals are. And he's forcing some people to have to lift their game, which is good. So, look, it's exciting. It's hard not to get carried away. I do understand that too. But we can only go off what we see as well. And I suppose the byproduct of having 8 young, talented kids come in is that if they're not playing AFL, they're playing VFL, and they really should be playing at a high standard there to be forcing their way in. So it's a win on both fronts.
Yeah. And what's exciting for us now is that with this team and how we've played, that free agency players are going to see this team and go, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of the resurgent Tigers. We're not like North Melbourne. We're not a shambles like West Coast. There's structure. There is good coaches. There's a massive fan base, and there's a lot of money because we got the cap. But yeah, I can definitely see a lot of free agents wanting to be a part of it, which is also very exciting.
That's a very good point, because I suppose my concern when talking about free agents is it was going to be a hard sell if we were going to crash and burn like last year. But if we put in a good performance every week, not saying we have to win every week, but if like you said, if players can see the method and what's evolving and what's happening, it's going to be so much easier to sell that vision to someone. I don't know who it might be. I'm keen on Ed Richards, but maybe he's might not be in the right age bracket for us, but it definitely helps putting a good performance on the park. Who would you go after? Free agency? You're in the Harley Reid camp?
Yeah, I would. I think he'd probably cost too much money, and I think how we would want to spread the money with these. If these players become who we think they're going to be, in Trainer, Lawler, Armstrong, Alga, they're all going to eventually command big paydays. Yeah. So I think we've got to be wise in that sense. But I wouldn't mind us going for, controversially, I wouldn't mind Jamara from Bulldogs.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. I think he would thrive in our system. I think the pressure wouldn't be that high on him. I think it would with the tools that we have with Sims and Armstrong and Jonty, I think it frees him up to kind of, those guys will they'll be the bullies, and it'll give Jamara a way of, being, I don't know, not the, I know the Bulldogs have other people up front, but I just think he would fit really well amongst the culture in Richmond as a team and as a club. I think I think he's better suited for it. I would go for him.
Are you thinking as a Tom Lynch replacement?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think we're going away from the massive tall forwards. Like Adamuze is picking these players that will crash packs and create a contest. Yeah. So I think unless there's a really dominant small forward that comes available and Jasper Alga doesn't tick all the boxes, then I can probably see us going for something like that. I would also I wouldn't mind us going back to the bit of the money ball strategy that we implemented with like Basher Hooley, Sean Grigg, Caddy, like bringing these players in that they're not superstars, but they perform a role. I mean, Hooley was a superstar, Grigg was a superstar, but in our minds, but to a degree, we need players to come in and be experienced and just fill those gaps that, you know, that we might not have. So I'd rather see a free agency where we do that than bring in like a marquee player.
Yeah, no, it's a fair call. I can see the reasoning behind that for sure. I like it. All right, well, Birdman, any other final thoughts on the Tigers? How do you think we'll go against Port?
I think we'll do all right. I think depends how these players pull up, honestly. I think they'll be pretty knackered after this game, and to fly off into Port Adelaide, and depending on what the weather's going to be like over there, I mean, I think I would be happy if we put in solid effort and we still see some glimpses here and there. We may get figured out a little bit. Port may not make the same mistakes Carlton did. So I'm just kind of, I'd be interested to see how some of our young guns play against some of Port's young guns, because I think their list is similar to ours. So like, as in like they're further down the track. So someone like, you know, Jason Horn-Francis with Layla and all those kinds of guys, I think it'd be good to see. I think it'd be good for the team to kind of stack up against. They'll learn a lot. I think they would probably learn more from Port than they would Carlton, in terms of where they're at, in terms of maturity.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair call. No, it'd be fascinating to see. I agree with you. It'd be interesting to see how they back up after a big game. Like chasing down 41-point margins isn't easy to do. So hopefully they rest up, recover well, and have a fair crack at it. But thank you for jumping on, mate. Thank you for hanging around and waiting as well. Appreciate it. Appreciate the insights.
No worries.
All right, and that is a wrap for the first fan cam. So hopefully that was enjoyable. A massive, massive thank you to everybody who jumped on and had a chat. And thank you to everybody who waited for a long period of time in the green room as well. Really appreciate all the insights and all the different views on the game. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that for the first time doing it. Always nice doing things like this after you've won a game. But yeah, we'll probably look to do a live call for the Port game, assuming that everything aligns, and maybe we do another fan cam straight after. We'll see how we go. But thanks everybody for tuning in tonight, and we'll be back on Monday night for the live show. With the normal panel to talk about the game, and we've got a Port Adelaide supporter as well lined up for next Wednesday night. So we'll do another opposition behind frenemy lines too. So keep an eye for that one as well. But thanks again, everybody, and I will see you all on Monday night. Go Tigers.